Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ion Canon podcast, your home for in-depth discussion of the Republic and the whole canon of the galaxy far, far away. My name is Matthew, and I'm coming to you from, as usual, from Underworld North Studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. As always, I'm joined from across the continent by your friend and mine, Mr. Joel Davis. Joel, how are you doing this week?
One day, gore. That's how I'm feeling.
Fuck.
Another day, another destiny.
Yes.
No.
One day, gore.
It is
Okay,
still
but
spring.
I have been thinking about Dylan and Enza singing A Heart Full of Love for 2 weeks now.
Yes.
So
All I can think of is just, I am zero.
It's true. He's totally
who are
Sinead.
you? Who are you?
I
Anyways,
told you. That's what I was. I told you last week. That's what my brain was going. It didn't get
Oh,
as
yeah.
dark
Yeah.
as I thought it was, but still.
fair. That's fair. Star Wars. It went there. Really went there. Showed an atrocity at a level of detail that we've yet to see from a story set in the galaxy far, far away. So this week we're talking all about the Ghorman Massacre, its surrounding circumstances, and its immediate aftermath as depicted in the third arc of Andor Season 2. And as you can see on the screen, as you can hear in the audio, to help us do just that, it's the if you ask me, who is the correct person to get on to help talk about the episode, spoiler alert, where Mon Mothma goes from the basement of the Empire to the penthouse of the Rebel Alliance. She's still bejeweled. It's Ash Mothma. How you doing?
Yeah, it took me a second to get that basement of penthouse reference, but I was like, thanks. She's in a temple. Her
Yes.
curtain is a tarp.
Hey,
She's
whatever.
slumming it with the rest of the troops.
Yep.
I'm surviving, I guess. Reporting from an undisclosed location in said senator's penthouse. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that, Mon? Okay. Sorry.
So I know what
Lucen in the
suburb
background is going, what were my words?
Oh,
I have friends everywhere.
he's
I-
here. He's here.
So in the real world, I know what suburb of Toronto you live in. You're about
Oh,
an hour
wow.
west of me. So in the real world,
In the
'cause
real world?
this show delves into some real world stuff pretty heavily. So yeah, we'll dive all into that. First, we get the plugs out of the way. You can follow us on Blue Sky primarily at Ion Canon, Blue Sky, Ion Canon.biscuit.social, however that works. Also, Ion Canon Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, although Twitter is mainly just for me to put my Tractor Beat episodes on nowadays. But yeah, we're still there. We're still hanging out. DMs are open if you ever want to say hi. Just throwing that out there too. Also, as I mentioned, the audio, if you prefer to listen on audio as opposed to video, after we record, I will throw this up onto Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just look up Ion Canon Podcast. If you look up Ion Canon, you'll find, with the same logo, you'll find our old feed. Ion Canon Podcast is our new feed, which has a number of our more recent episodes. So please do check that out. Also, rolling right along, we are proudly part of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast Network. Check out everything going on around the networks, including the flagship, chatting about Andor, of course, and the Ray side, everything Hannah's up to, and I'll get to the crown jewel of the Underworld Network. I'm kidding, I'm biased, but that's another story. Get there in a second. But here on the Underworld YouTube channel, we have YouTube memberships and we have super chats. So if you chat with us, if you comment down below, we will get to it as soon as we can. But if you super chat, if you're willing to contribute materially, financially to the channel, to the network, we will get to. I will stop mid-sentence. I will interrupt Ash mid-sentence. Horror of horrors, risk my friendship to get to this question. Get to
We
your
care
comment.
about the money.
Yes. We're just
Yeah,
doing it for
no,
money,
it's
guys.
fine. It's how we fund the rebellion.
Yes.
If I find out that you're not funding the rebellion, I might cry.
Yeah, there we go. So it's all
Please.
funding the rebellion. That's fair.
I say funding
also-
the rebellion. We're actually it's a Ghorman relief fund right now.
Yes, that works.
Yeah.
Don't ask Cinta to take Teo for a spin. Anyway,
No.
Speaking of the Underworld Network, we're also the Underworld Star Wars Underworld Discord server. Minty Fresh link down below. Come on in. The water's fine. Talking about Andor spoilers. Nice, funny screenshot I shared in the Andor spoilers Discord, season 2 spoilers Discord channel. Please do go check that out. I might actually reference it later on in the show because it's hilarious.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no.
Anyway, but yeah, go check out
Oh,
our
no.
and Joel. Any events coming up? Any events recently? Any events coming up in the Discord?
Well, last week we had lots of fun watching the last 3 episodes of Andor again, so that was fun for everyone concerned. Yay, fun. Yes. And this week I think we're gonna probably have a bit of a calm Fortnite thing to continue getting the star leveled up as we get more of that Fortnite battle pass. It's
There we go.
fun.
Unless you guys call an audible and just watch the series finale, but you know,
Maybe it
Never
was
know.
I wanted to watch last week. I'm getting really bad though. So that's why I did it.
That's fair. All right. Last but not least, I mentioned one more show in the Underworld Network. It's the Tractor Beam Comics Reviews. And this week, every Wednesday, Chris Habben and I review the comic books that came out that day from Star Wars. This week, we're still catching up because Chris was in Japan at Star Wars Celebration, and so we're still catching up with that. But this Wednesday, we were talking about the Young Jedi Adventures Free Comic Book Day that came out a week and a half ago, or I guess a week ago. Jedi Knights #3 that is coming out this Wednesday, and Ghost Agents, Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, Bad Batch, Ghost Agents #3. There, I got the whole title in. We're chatting about that. Yeah, it's a long title.
That's a lot.
Yeah, join us right here on the Underworld YouTube channel and Facebook and Twitch. Check that out. Yeah, this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, where we chat about Star Wars and Kevin Scott Tales of the I keep forgetting what it is. Tales of the Darklands or something like that. One of those those comic books
that just got announced. Yeah,
so Chris and I are gonna finally get to that news. I'll remember to put in the notes. There we go. Anyways, got all those plugs out of the way. We're finally ready to let Ash yap. First off, not about Mon Mothma. Well, yes, yap about Mon Mothma.
Kind of.
You won't not. You can't not yap about Mon Mothma.
Yeah, exactly.
But you were in Japan as well.
I was in Japan, bro. It was phenomenal. I had a great time, bro. It was super casual. Nothing super exciting happened to me at all.
So boring. It was so boring.
It was Japan
just, for interesting things.
It was mid. It was mid at best. Nothing exciting happened to me. I mean, aside from I met Dave Filoni in the Pokemon Center. In the Pokemon Center. It wasn't.
What kind of Pokemon was he getting? What was he trying to get?
I don't remember. And Luai, my partner, who Matthew knows, you don't know, Joel. He and I are just like, we regret not asking him who his favorite Pokemon is. But we have
trying to get fire types or shadow types or
I literally cannot remember. I was shaking the whole time. And it was great because he asked are you guys here for all 3 days? Like, what are you up to this weekend? At the convention, and I was like, I have a Mon Mothma panel that I'm doing. That's the really big thing that's happening for me. So Dave Filoni wished me luck with my Mon Mothma panel that I did, and then he was like, have you ever met Genevieve? And I was like, no, bro, I wish. And he's gushing about her, and I'm like, yeah, I get it, dude. I didn't say this part, but I was like, yeah, I get it. She is phenomenal. She's wonderful. She's amazing. Wish I could meet her. And then, literally, the 5 of us who were there in that Pokemon Center, we have a chat on Discord that's literally called We Met Dave Filoni in the Pokemon Center, and we are a Picari sweat cult. It's very interesting. Shout out to Mo for making our little icon of Dave Filoni holding up Picari sweat, and then there's also Pikachu there.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
And we're
That's
like,
awesome.
this means nothing to anybody else, but she's like, I might do it for my stickers for Star Wars Celebration LA, and I'm like, I'm gonna hit pre-order on that right now. But it was awesome. And then Friday, Mon Mothma panel that I did. And I was super nervous. I blacked out in the middle of the panel. So any of the pictures of me afterwards, I'm like,
I didn't notice.
Right?
I watched the YouTube last
And
night. I didn't notice.
it was so wild. I blacked out. There are parts of the script that I'm like, I don't know how to read this. And so I just skipped them. And I was like, okay. And then one of the questions again was like, because in my intro slide, I have a picture of me and Caroline, and then me as Mon in my cosplay. And then one of the questions was like, oh, have you ever met Genevieve? And I was like, no, I wish. And then Saturday, the day of the Andor panel. Okay, so I had 4 things that I really wanted from Celebration. 1, the Mon Mothma badge.
Okay.
Right? Didn't get it in the beginning because it was the exhibitor badge. Was able to swindle somebody on the Sunday after the convention because there was a couple and they were like, we really liked the Soul and Chimere one. We don't need 2 Mon Mothmas. And I was like, I need 2 Mon Mothmas, but not the point here. So we traded.
All right.
So I got that. I got the panel, right?
Yes.
I wanted the celebration stage for Andor because I was like, they're going to show us the first episode, right? I was Delulu about it. And guess what? The Delulu clowning worked because they showed it and they streamed it to all the stages.
Clowning?
But like, so real. I went to the Swifty School of Clowning.
Yes.
And so like, but sitting there at the Galaxy stage, because I didn't get main stage for it. And honestly, like, I'm like, the reason I wanted celebration stage was to see the first episode. So the fact that I got to see it on the Galaxy stage, I'm like, you know what? I technically got it, so I'm counting that. And so I was like, I have no idea who's going to be at this panel. Like, I know that Diego is supposed to be here this weekend and Alan Tudyk's supposed to be here this weekend. Beyond that, I don't know. Genevieve O'Reilly comes out. I'm pretty much on the floor. And I screamed so loud. There were people after this
screaming
panel.
at Genevieve O'Reilly? What? Since when?
There were people after the panel, still on Sunday, coming up to me being like, were you at the Galaxy stage for the Andor panel? And I was like, I'm so sorry you had to be there in that room when I experienced finding out Genevieve O'Reilly was there. When I heard her mention Chandrilla, when I got to see Chandrilla for the first time in live action, and when I got to see Erskine Samaj, and when I got proof of life for my father that did not last at all.
Wait,
and
Erskine's your father, or who's father?
Tay.
Cole. Yes, that makes sense.
Erskine is
brother.
My,
competition, colleague,
boyfriend.
Okay,
kind of.
Cousin.
It's a consensual workplace romance.
Okay, I see.
Sure. So what happens? Look, Mon is very supportive of the 2 of us, and that matters a lot. Yeah, but I was very apologetic to everyone that had to experience me on the Galaxy stage as well, because I was like, I was just going insane. I was not okay. And then afterwards, because I had my whole schedule planned out, like I did a video as part of my countdown for Andor. And I'm sat there as I'm watching Genevieve O'Reilly sat at the celebration stage. And I'm like, I'm so sorry to everyone whose things I'm going to miss for the rest of the day, but I'm going to be camped at the live stage because I need to be in Mother's presence. And so basically, like right after that, I had to go to the author signing because I was like, oh my God, like, I have to be really quick about it.
Yeah.
And basically, like most of the authors that were there, like I'm kind of friends with. So they were like, that's kind of more important. Go do that. Right.
They know you like Mon Mothma.
Because there was a whole thing. Literally. They were like, because there was also a whole thing with the like book signings where you had to buy the book there in order to get it signed, and they did not tell the authors this. And so basically I was breaking the bad news to some of them, and they were like, excuse me, and I was
That's
like,
weird.
yeah.
I've never
That was weird.
seen that. Yeah.
But and so I was like, yeah, like that's kind of what they're doing. And they're like, okay, so afterwards we'll just kind of hang out in the area and sign stuff for you guys because you came all this way with your stuff.
Yeah.
And you don't need new copies of this stuff. And I was like, I love Shadow of the Sith. I already have my copy of Shadow of the Sith signed, and I don't want to spend like another $45 on a new copy, you know? But I go to the live stage, right? And I'm with Beth, Nicholas, and Chris for a little while. And Denise and Kyle are up there having a great time. And then, you know, we're like, okay. I'm like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, because she has to come out, right? And they were like, yes, she will. And then, you know, Alan and Diego came out, and I was like, okay, right? I was like, all right, it'll be okay. And they were like, she has to come out. Like, she's going to, right? They still haven't brought out Adria. They haven't brought out Tony. They haven't brought out Genevieve. Everyone's going to want to see them. And I was like, I just want to see Genevieve. And so, you know, Diego and Alan are finishing off, and they're like, oh yeah, like we're gonna keep going with Andor. Beth and Nicholas were like, go, like get to the front. And so in London, when I tried to get to the front when Genevieve was on the live stage, people were actually like closing in way tighter. And I was like, I just want to be close. I just want to see Mother. You know, but I was like, hi, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. I have something to give to Genevieve. And people were parting and getting me to the front. So I'm at the front suddenly.
Oh,
and I was
that's
like,
good community for you.
I was like, oh, damn, what the hell? Right? Genevieve comes out. I'm freaking out. I don't, like, Tony and Adria were there as well. I'm so sorry to both of them. I forgot that you existed for about like 25 minutes, half an hour. Because I was just focused on Genevieve. And so she comes out, and I'm like, Genevieve, right? She's like, you know, waving to the crowd. She sees me. And at the back, I guess they had like her reaction on the screen. And Beth and Nicholas were just like, oh yeah, she saw Ash. Good. Right?
Yeah.
Because she like completely ignores like the rest of the crowd for a second, comes over, and I'm like, hi. And she's like, hi. And I'm like, I have something for you for like afterwards. And she was like, for me, really? Right? She is blowing me kisses. Genevieve O'Reilly blew me kisses.
How?
And I was like,
amazing. Sorry.
So I'm shaking this whole time. She sits down basically right in front of me. So I was staring at the back of Genevieve O'Reilly's head. And later I found out that someone like had clocked this special moment and was took a few pictures of like me looking at Genevieve and then recorded our interaction after, which I'm super grateful for. Because if you watch it on YouTube, all of that is cut, right? Whereas last time you could hear me scream and you can see Anthony Carbone's reaction when he's like, I know, right? Absolutely terrified. Yeah. So I don't remember what happened. I was like this the whole time. I was taking pictures of the back of her head, being like, this is amazing. And then there was a little voice in the back of my head that sounded just like Beth and Nick, being like, you should ask her for a selfie. Like, you should try and get a selfie with her. And I was like, okay, but I'm like getting my bracelets ready. And then in the aftermath, I was like, oh, I still had an Andor bracelet that I didn't give her. I had a Chandrilla bracelet that I didn't give her, but I gave her 6 of my bracelets. It's just a stack of my bracelets. And it's so funny because I'm like shaking this whole time. Like, I am in the presence of greatness. This is everything I've ever wanted. And I was just slowly like freaking out over all of this because I'm like, I don't know how to come back from this. Like, she must think that I'm crazy. And right. But afterwards, like, they give her the t-shirt cannon, which was hilarious because she's like, oh, I've never held a gun before. I was like, that is the most Mon Mothma thing that she has said
the plot
this
point
entire
of that.
thing. And I got a picture of her with the t-shirt cannon, and then I cropped it, and it's my new favorite reaction image. It was for a while my Blue Sky profile picture, but now that's been taken by Dylan and Enza as a memorial to my sweet baby angels. But then I gave her my bracelets and my sticker, and Matthew, like, do we
Yeah.
want to show everybody?
Yeah, see if I
Because
can
I think
Show
it's
it.
pretty
Show
great.
Show it. Show
It's
it.
pretty
show
great.
it.
There we go.
Um,
There we go.
And so I was like, oh, can we get a selfie? And she was like, oh, I can't come down off the stage. And I was like, bro, I wouldn't want you to freaking jump off the stage anyways. And I was like, can we do it from here? And she was super excited. I
Yeah.
literally have another one. It's a live photo where she's blowing me another kiss. And I'm like,
Nice.
and then I have this one.
Mhm.
But it's insane. And then that is my lock screen. That is my home screen on my phone because I'm still scared I'm gonna wake up and be like, that was a dream. But it wasn't. It wasn't a dream, and it was life-changing. And I met Genevieve O'Reilly, and so
There we go. Should print it off on like photo paper,
real,
like a big poster right there.
yeah. And
We should just leave this up the whole time.
that was
knowing you.
That was the fourth thing that I wanted from Star Wars Celebration. So I went 4 for 4 this celebration. And then the Star Wars TikTok, there's a video where she's coming off of like the vegetable carving and you can see my friendship bracelets in her hand. And I'm like,
Oh,
and I've been riding that high. I was like, and if I said that those bracelets were from me, what then? Genevieve O'Reilly has my friendship bracelets. Like,
you can die happy now. It's like the world can be destroyed. We're fine. We did it.
But I was like, she obviously, like, because there were so many people screaming her name. I was like, she clocked me as Mon Mothma in my Mon Mothma cosplay from that one page of the Rebellion one-shot comic from 2023 that I'm not even sure if she's read.
Can I just say, Ash, I love your nose rings, and now it's like, this is Mom Mothma during her nose ring period.
There we go.
Oh, real?
Her nose ring phase.
The Rebellion got like a tattoo artist / piercer who decided, and Mon was like, I'm not doing anything today. And it was like, do you want to get a septum piercing? And she was like, sure. I'm sure I know what most things feel like. And then her eyes are watering.
It's the Force healer. She's also a piercer. So,
exactly.
Knowing what I know about you, Ash, like, seeing this photo when I saw it when you shared it, I'm like, okay, your day has been made, your life has been made. You can like
die happy.
You can die happy now. Because I mean,
we have ascended.
It's Genevieve O'Reilly's performance of Mon Mothma that is your number one in Star Wars, right?
Yeah. Like I love Caroline. She was the first actress I saw play Mon because I was just a little kid sitting on my grandmother's carpet being like, I like her. And I didn't even know her name at that point, but I liked to rewind the VHS copy. I'm aging myself of Return of the Jedi just to watch that scene because I was like, scary shit's about to go down and she's super calm, but she also understands like that this is serious. And now's not the time to panic. She needs to inspire the people around her. And I was like, that's incredibly brave. And so, living in the world for like 20 years where people were like, Mon Mothma's cowardly. I'm like, you no less than 4-year-old me.
Cowardly.
Yeah. She could never be cowardly. So, she's she's a badass. She's super cool. I love her. Now the next step is actually like a proper picture of the two of us together.
Yes, that's good.
And if I ever get to like meet her or whatever, I will remind her of this moment, even if she's lying to me. She's like, "Oh, I remember that." I'll be like,
something tells me the friendship bracelets might stand out. Just
maybe because she also has my Mothma for Chancellor ABY sticker.
Yes.
As well. So. Yeah.
So okay, Genevieve, you're not listening, but if you are or watching, come to Fan Expo Canada in August.
Come to Fan Expo Canada. Screw all of my other plans for meeting people. I love you the most. Once again, Fan Expo Canada, I'm asking you to do whatever Genevieve O'Reilly wants because she was here in Toronto the day I got back from
Japan. There's a whole thing at TIFF.
At TIFF at the Lightbox, and a bunch of my friends were there, and they were like, you were back in the country. I was like, I had just landed about 20 minutes before the thing began, and I was still in the airport when it started. So
I didn't even hear about the
Barely.
thing. So the Toronto International Film Festival, their permanent theater, which is really nice.
Mhm.
They did a whole Andor screening and had Genevieve
Genevieve
and Lars,
and
right? Oh no,
it was
Stellan.
Stellan, yeah.
Ron Skarsgård. Oh, wrong
Stellan Skarsgård.
Danish-esque person. Lars and Mick, whatever. I'm mixing things up.
Lars and Maz are Danish, and then Stellan. I almost said Stecken. Stecken Skulden. Stellan Skarsgård, I think, is Swedish.
Yeah, it's probably Swedish. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
he is an ABBA tribute band all of his own.
So I'm salty about not being invited to that thing because
it's so weird seeing Stellan Skarsgård in other things. By the way, these days, like I forget he's in the Thor films and like this goofy professor. And it's like you're this goofball, and then
we have seen Luthen rail naked.
Like
I mean, we've seen Luthen be a goofy, somewhat goofy antique salesman.
That's true. We've also seen Luthen singing ABBA in Greece.
Yes, oh, that's true too. Are we okay to bring
Bond and Mr. Darcy?
All right, so are we okay to bring this photo down? I know it's on your Instagram.
Anyways,
Mothma.
Yeah, that's
But
I think it's also up at Mothma Updates. So
yes. I'm vicariously happy for you.
Because I was like, awesome. Mothma update from Mothma Updates. Mothma Updates has met Mon Mothma.
Yes. It's the only update you need.
Well, I have one question that has been eating at my mind this whole story. Ash, what Pokemon were you trying to get? What were you trying to buy?
I got a Fennekin plush. I got a Fennekin plush that I named Shand after Fennec Shand because Fennekin. And then I got an Alolan Vulpix that I named Crate because she looks like a Vulpix from Crate, which is like my favorite Star Wars creature because it's like a fox.
That's awesome.
I have an obsession with foxes. That is Crate.
Can attest.
My baby.
Okay. Yeah. The important question has been answered.
All right. So are we good to get into the Ghorman Massacre, guys? Are we okay?
One day.
Emotionally or
intellectually.
Intellectually.
Anyways, Joel. Well, first of all, Ash, thanks for sharing the story. That was
that was what happened to me in Japan.
Letting us live through you and letting us live through.
Thank you. I was also hanging out at Disneyland with Chris Kempshell. So
nice.
That's all. Oh, did you see Ellie with Chris Kempshell too?
Oh yeah, I saw their panel together. I was sat front row, my copy of The Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire in my lap, and I was like, Mon Mothma's ready for history class.
There we go.
Nice.
This is what she wants.
I'm still waiting for them to post their video. It's going to be a while, but
it's going to be so funny. Oh my god.
I can't wait.
It was such a great panel. Veer's Watch and I both got attacked. So
nice.
There we go. Alrighty. Moving right along. Joel, let's do it.
All right. Yeah. One day, God, one more day. I'm gonna do that.
Okay, fine. I gotta finish.
Okay.
I gotta fix this.
Okay. All right. So, oh my. These episodes, Andor, episode 7, 8, 9. Wowza. Just wowza. I mean, that's my review. Everyone, good night. Okay. So I want to do things a little differently this week compared to our last 2 weeks. Last couple of weeks, I've been going by character arcs. Because they were kind of evenly spread out across the episode. This week, I'm going to go episode by episode, more or less. So we're going to talk about Ghorman, then we're going to talk about Mon, and a little bit at the beginning. I know.
Makes sense.
But hang on, let me get my water.
Hydration break. Stay hydrated.
So yeah, and also I just want to say first off, I really liked how the episodes themselves were organized, very differently than the last couple of arcs. Not that I'm against the last couple of arcs, I think they were done well, but I think for this to work, you needed just a whole episode on Ghorman. Like, you couldn't cut. I know. We wanted to see more Mon. We always do, but I think you couldn't cut. You had to stick with Ghorman the whole time, and then you could do a whole Mon Mothma episode. With the first episode being kind of the build up. So that was great. So I'll toss it to you before we get into like episode 1. What do you think of just the structure of the arc compared to the last 3?
I think it was actually perfect. Because, okay, so essentially we knew going into it that the Ghorman Massacre would be essentially 5 episodes, right? And anyone who studies history or knows anything knows that atrocities don't happen in a vacuum. Because, or like, you know, just on its own. There's always build up, there's always lead up to it. And essentially, even with that, they've been building to this from season 1 with the blockade that Mon mentions in episode 4, right? And then she mentions it again later down the road in other like speeches that she does in the Senate. So essentially they start with the blockade, which, you know, well, actually technically they started in 19 BBY with the Tarkin massacre where 500 Ghor, peaceful, unarmed Ghorman were killed in Palmo Plaza by Tarkin. Friendship over. And they built that memorial. That put a target on Ghorman, right? Because that memorial says, like, we will not forget what you did. This is going to hold you accountable, right? And so, you know, that was the beginning of the continued and inexplicable Ghorman resistance to imperial norms. Because the imperial norm was the empire screws you over, they hurt you, they kill you, you let them get away with it. That is the imperial norm, right? And then, you know, you fast forward to the blockade that happens because the Ghor are peacefully protesting for their basic rights to be met. And then, you know, you have with the blockade, like that is actively starving and harming the economy and the lives of the people who live in this single product economy, right? And, you know, that blockade definitely also, both of those things, the Tarkin massacre and the blockade, were radicalizing acts for the Ghor. And then, you know, you move into the PORD and like the Public Order Resentencing Directive and how there was a 38% increase in crime on Ghorman, which we know that the PORD was just like any action with even indirect impact on the empire will now be branded as a like class 1 offense, right? Basically a felony. It's a felony to even directly impact the empire. So, you know, the Ghorman protests would count as that. The Ghorman resistance to imperial norms would also count as that, which, you know, it's just like, is there actually a 38% increase in actual crime on Ghorman, or are these people protesting for their rights? And of course, the blockade is lifted, and, you know, we move into the period of anti-Ghorman propaganda, right? So it's like, technically, the Ghorman Massacre has been going on for a long time. It's not just 5 episodes. And with the propaganda, the galaxy is turning against the Ghor. Their economy is directly being impacted. Edie's like, well, I'm not buying Ghorman again. And ends the remarks to Cassian, like, there's nobody at your hotel. Like, your hotel's not even half full. This cafe used to be bustling. People were fighting for tables. Look at it now. You know, you are seeing the impacts. And she's right when she's like, it's hard to be patient when your whole world is falling apart, right? Because the Ghor have been there for centuries, for generations. The House of Rylance is one of the youngest, like, houses on that planet. And yet, 19 generations with Caro, right? That's a lot. And so, you know, a lot of it was meant to specifically isolate the Ghor and make sure that nobody would come to their aid when they asked for help, right? Anyways, the Empire can catch these hands. I am angry. I love Ghorman. I told myself I wasn't going to fall in love with this planet, and yet I did. But it matters, right? It mattered that the very first time that we saw Mon Mothma in Andor, she is talking about the plight of the Ghors, right? Because that keeps it like, you know where she is going. Anyone who's seen Rebels, and if you haven't seen Rebels, watch Rebels. Anyone who's seen it has watched Secret Cargo knows how important what happens to the Gores is to Mon's story arc. And they were like, we're starting here. We're giving you a solid start, and it's going to weave through. You're not going to get away with this. And that is the whole point of episode 8 being the way that it is. Whenever I watch episode 8, and it's been a lot, I've watched it every day this past week because I rewatched the arc several times.
Yeah.
Told you. I knew it.
And it was because it's just so masterfully done. I'm able to pause episode 7 and I'm able to pause episode 9. Very specific places. Episode 8, I do not pause. Because the point is that you're not supposed to be able to get away from it. And there is no place where I could pause it and be comfortable walking away for any reason, right? Whereas episode 7 and 9, I can kind of do that. But also the way that this season is structured, the way that it has to be structured, we don't have enough time with Ghorman. We don't know what happened with Cyril to turn Caro and Enza so bitter against him. Because that is definitely a thing. Because episodes 4 through 6, they were like, oh yeah, like we can do good together. We can work together. Episode 7? Definitely not. Enza literally like slapped Cyril across the face, which he deserved. And
you're all deserve to slap it.
And then episode 8, he gets in a physical altercation with Caro. Cyril pushes this sweet old pacifist man, and then he gets shot in the head for it. And I'm like, based.
That's true.
And then
we'll get to those moments.
There was no place, and I hate saying this because I'm always like, there is always a place for Mon Mothma. There was no place for her during the massacre, so there's no place for her in episode 8 because her role is specifically the before and the after.
I agree.
Her trying to prevent it and her responding to it, right? And I think it's also very important that even though we'd only seen Senator Oren once in episode 4, it's important that he is also in the beginning and the end of this arc. Anyways, rest in peace, Senator Oren, because you are not going to survive. And I loved you. I loved you for the 3 episodes that I had you.
Hey, Take Holma could still be alive.
Take Holma might still be alive.
Mace Windu could still be alive. And even if you do see the body, somehow Palpatine returned. So you never know.
Exactly. You never
Somehow
know.
Senator Dossie Oren survived.
Yeah. Matthew, I'll toss it to you. Matthew,
Yeah.
I'll toss it to you. What do you think of just the arc structure overall compared to the last 2 weeks?
I mean, so what I've noticed, I don't know if this is entirely accurate, but it feels to me it's like 2 Cassian episodes, 1 Mon episode, 2 Cassian episodes, 1 Mon episode, 2 Cassian episodes, 1 Mon episode. And this was, and it gets more increasingly pronounced. I don't know if that's entirely the case, but this one, it maybe was building towards this. I mentioned, I think last week, I was all, when are we getting to the Mon episodes? When are we getting to the Mon episode or the Mon moments? Because the first 2 episodes in that one were very heavily Cassian. And I was just more interested in the Mon stuff. This time around, Ghorman Massacre transfixed on this 8th episode. Something about 8th episodes in between 7th and 9th episodes. Just putting that out there.
There's
that's
a reason that they're episode 8.
It's
because they eat and they leave no crumbs. They also brutalize me in the back of a windowless van and leave me for dead.
I'm referring to The Last Jedi, a film by Rian Johnson. Anyway.
Oh, that movie's dope as well. It also ate, left no crumbs.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. Yeah, these episodes. So, but that, that's the thing, is in this arc, I wasn't like, when are we getting to the Mon stuff? I was, this build up that Ash you mentioned from season 1. From 2017 Secret Cargo?
2017 is when Secret Cargo released, because it was right after Rogue One.
But and then all this build up, and then even we'll get to the build up in the actual episode itself. But so transfixing that I was okay. Let's keep going with this. I get it. And then, I mean, the 3rd episode, it did feel a bit on its own. I mean, obviously it was, but like the first 7 and 8 feel of a piece, and then episode 9 is kind of on its own, but definitely in the aftermath of Ghorman Massacre, it's so Mon focused, which is Ash, why you're here. But
thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it worked very well. Like you're saying, the focus. I didn't even notice, frankly, that it's all this episode is all one continuous. I was just so locked in, and that's the effect of it being one continuous thing.
I'll go as far as to say the show ended here. I would not be upset. I mean, obviously, there's still certain things we got to wrap up. We got to wrap up Luthen and Dedra, and I think that's going to be our focus on next week for sure. I'm actually kind of curious if there will be things Mon will appear or not. I feel like some ways now gonna get a little bit smaller.
Speculations.
Well,
about
she's gonna be on Yavin.
That's true. She'll be on Yavin.
She'll be on Yavin.
24 hours from now.
That's true. We'll find out. But I'll say it's like I do feel like if the show ended here, more or less, I feel like almost everything would have been wrapped up enough for me. Where it's like, okay, we can go into Rogue One. I'm glad there's going to be a more direct lead into Rogue One for sure. But but speaking of Yavin, let's start there before we get into the big stuff. We gotta start with our prologue, people. We gotta build up. We gotta build up. So yes, we start up in Yavin. And like, ooh, that was so exciting to see Yavin. It's like, oh, we get to see the rebellion. We get to see the rebellion getting all organized and stuff. And we see my boy General Draven. I love
my boy. I love him. I love him so much.
Me too. I love him.
I just keep thinking, is the Maya Pay Brigade still in the jungle playing rock paper scissors?
General Draven just come to them and
each other.
Draven just stumbles upon them. Draven just stumbles upon them like, what the are you idiots doing?
Have they gotten lunch yet?
I know.
Maybe.
3 years later. 2 years later.
But this episode was also interesting because we see this Force healer, and we start to get in a little bit of Cassian's kind of place in the galaxy, and like how he's a messenger and the gatherer. There's even a continuation of that, funny enough, in the third episode, where Luthen's like, you were there and I need you to be like, oh, Donnie. I always felt like Luthen about to go. It's as if like some all-powerful force is like bringing us together in some ways. So Matthew, I'll toss it to you. What do you think of seeing Yavin? What do you think of my boy Draven? And of course, what do you think of the whole Force healer little mini plot going on?
So I think when Ellie was on, when Ellie and Ash were on, I think the
Mask of Fear,
for the Mask of Fear conversation.
Great review. Go watch it.
Yes,
Ellie, so much fun.
Ellie mentioned that there's at some point we're gonna have to go from this super realistic with Andor, super realistic, rooted in our own history story. At some point, it's gonna become a Star Wars.
Yeah,
and that's not a knock. That's exciting. That's fun. That's why we're here. It's why we're in this universe. I love the way it becomes a Star Wars so organically in the story. It becomes a Star Wars by showing, oh yeah, this show with Andor, he's building to becoming part of this organized rebellion.
Yeah,
the folks who are taking the fight to the Empire are the good guys. Oh, and by the way, this is a universe, remember, that is driven and guided and shaped ultimately by this mystical energy field that it connects all life and even people's destinies, and works for the good of the flourishing of life. And so and it did it so organically through Bix, through Bix's story, right? Just how she's the one who is connecting with Andor. I mean, I have a bit of quibbles about how Bix is used in this episode, in this show, but ultimately it was a very natural, organic way of reminding us and bringing us towards, again, ultimately, because Rogue One is sort of in between. I mean, there's the Guardians of the Wills, and then it all comes together with Luke, right? This is where this is all heading.
Yeah.
And so there's that. I do want to say, we'll get to Bix at the end, but I wanted a bit more from her. Ash, when I came on your show, your thing about the Death Star, I would mention at the end, Bix was probably the most intriguing, interesting character, and we did not get enough of her. But other than that, I love it. Was again, it's so fascinating also to say Luthen's star is fading, and the rebellion star is rising. Right.
We'll get to that because I got a very
Yeah.
interesting take on that whole thing. By the way, I just
Yeah.
I love the idea of Marva like hating Force healers that like one guy. I bet I'm feeling Martha's like just a stubborn Force atheist.
Yes.
Like the Force, that's a bunch of nonsense.
I mean, that tracks with what we see with in Rogue One, right? With Cassian, right? He's all given up on the Force, given up on the sense of destiny. Yeah, and just again getting us to think in those terms again. Right. I mean, Ahsoka is all about those terms, about the Force and destiny, and I mean with Grogu a little bit, but definitely, I mean, yeah, I mean, Ahsoka is the Space Wizard show, and the Acolyte are the Space Wizard shows, which is more my wheelhouse. But yeah, it was amazing to again this on ramp into this more just an organization. That's the funny thing is cosmic organization and then political organization with the rebellion. Really, yeah, I'm here for it.
I mean, this is the sad thing of Andor not being 5 seasons, and I get why, because Tony Gilroy wants to be alive. I want Tony Gilroy alive too.
I love Tony Gilroy.
I do too. But yeah, I do wish we could have seen the formation of the Yavin cell. Because I love those guys. Again, McCoy Draven. I love General Draven.
Boy. I love him so much.
Me and my buddy Red, we like we talking to each other like, you see Draven? It's like, yeah, we saw Draven. Like, yeah, Draven. Yeah,
Draven.
Leo Point.
I love General Draven. Yeah. What can I say?
I just want to jump in quickly. You know, that and with Cyril, your point before with Cyril. I mean, that's just the way that this season's been structured. Is everything that happens in between has to be very implied, and we just have to piece things together. Maybe that's where books and comics and everything else comes in.
Ghorman front book. Let me write it. Let me write the Ghorman front Disney.
So.
Disney.
I mean,
I want Alexander Free to come back and do a Draven book.
Well, okay. Well, this is a bit of a tangent. This is a tangent. You in your panel, you said you want to write an in-universe biography of Mon Mothma.
Yes.
What would your in-universe historian be called?
So, she doesn't have a name right now.
Okay.
But essentially, she is a researcher from the University of Hannah on Chandrilla, and she grew up actually during the time of the Empire, and she very much was the type of person who was like, she leaned a little bit too much on looking for an authority figure. So in that way, she's very similar to other characters in Andor, like Wilmon, Cyril, even Dedra. Like, she definitely wanted something to believe in, because she was like, there's just terrible stuff happening.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do about it. And so seeing her senator, essentially, when she was 17 years old, speaking about this, she was like, I have no power right now to leave home, but what I can do is I can try and do things from here and research not just her, like not just Senator Mothma, but also the things that she talks about, the things that she cares about. So she was like, you know, studying the Clone Wars. She was studying things like the Ghorman Massacre. And following the fall of the Empire, she had like all of these notes, and she was like, well, Chancellor Mothma is saying that she doesn't want to write her own account of the war, which is pointed out in the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. And she's like, but what if I were to give people a blueprint of what I think true bravery and courage looks like? And that's why she writes this biography. And she, you know, she's like, you know, Senator Mothma never wanted this power, but she felt it was her legacy, and that's why she went into public service. That's why she made the choices that she did, and the galaxy is a better place for it. Sometimes our destiny requires us to do things that are the opposite of what we want. Because that's like part of the Rogue One novel, is that Mon was like, I just want to play Smash Ball. and study history and be locked in a little room with all of these like old texts. And then her parents are like, no, this family has a political legacy. And she's like, fine, but you're not gonna like it. I'm gonna start a rebellion. So essentially, like that's what she's trying to achieve with this. It's not just a biography, it's a blueprint of bravery in her mind.
So all that to say, that gives space within the canon to write things like that. Del Rey, Penguin Random House Worlds, if you're listening. There's the pitch. There you go. Anyways.
I also liked another moment of, again, we're starting to see the rebellions realize Cassian's not just a sharpshooter, he's a leader. I mean, you know, there's a moment where it's like, you know, if Cassian wasn't going to do this mission to Ghorman for Luthen, the Javen and Dodonna were going to promote him to captain. I guess he got to get the promotion eventually because he's a captain in Rogue One. So... And also that that does also mean that Draven does recruit Andor into the official rebellion proper, not just Luthen's Axis network. So that's nice. So that was all cool. It was cool to see that. It was cool seeing the Force healer thing. All right. On to Gore. All right, we're finally. I think we got. We'll get back to Yavin near the end, and we can talk about Bix. But finally, we're going to Gore. Obviously Cassian and Wilmund are going there to take out Deidre because Deidre's been on Luthen's tail since episode 3, really. And I feel like that's going to come back to the end. I think that's kind of the last thread we got to deal with.
There is a shot of Dedra in the shop, like in the gallery. And people are making jokes. They're like, what if Clea just eats an artifact at Dedra's head? And I'm like, fuck. Please don't. She's meant to end up on the Death Star.
It's a good question.
Sorry, Dedra. That's how you die.
Man, I wouldn't mind if
the Tarkin path. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Anyway, but anyway, they're going to go to Ghorman. Cyril's getting all angsty. Everything's all the tension. Like, oh my god. You know, it's interesting. You know, we always hear about how evil the Empire is, how bad it is, blah 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 blah. I'm so dismissive. I'm sorry. You know, and in the New Hope, so I'm going to use the original trilogy, so I'm not just comparing things to the newer stuff. You know, we see the destruction of Alderaan. We're sad because Leia's sad. And obviously later we'll be sad again when we meet Bail. Both Bails now. We'll get to that later. 2 Bails.
Lucky woman.
2 Bails for the price of 1. But you know, Alderaan blows up. And then we see Leia, and she's pretty okay. She's still quirky. She's ready to kick some butt. And then she helps, then she's all sad. She helps Luke when Ben dies, and then they're okay again later. So it's like, okay, yeah, we blew up a planet. Oh, sorry, there's loud music outside.
Nice.
But anyway, but you know, it's like, oh yeah, we blew up a planet. Ooh, Empire evil, right? And then next 2 movies, it's like they're all in the Outer Rim, and then on Andor, it's not like it doesn't seem like the Empire's making the Ewoks life hell. So we don't know. Yeah. They seem fine. So you know,
they're even stormtroopers.
I know. But you know, the Empire, it's like we're told they're evil, but we don't really see them doing evil things, with the exception of destroying Alderaan. But even then, it's like, all right, we're move on to the fun stuff again. Oh, and I guess burn Uncle Owen and Peru too. That gets a little bit of message of sadness. Yeah. But here, to go back to Ghorman, like, oh my god, like just so much build up and visceral tension to just the evil of the Empire. I think I want to throw this question to Matthew because I've never asked this, and I've always been curious. You know, we talk about Star Wars feels like our world, and we talk about that in terms of themes and ideas, and sometimes. But I've been curious because we've seen this so many times this season. I always keep forgetting to bring it up. How do you feel when we see things being real? Not in like an oh my god, this is like watching the news. But like when you literally see Edie Khan watching the equivalent of Star Wars Fox News or Good Morning Coruscant. Let's talk about the Emperor's fashion sense, girlfriend. Like, how do you? I guess I'll throw this to you before we get into like even the meteor stuff. Yeah. How do you feel about just seeing realistic Star Wars, but not like oh my god, it's like no, it's like they do have cable news just like us.
Like ordinary.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how do you feel about that as it's so we're so not
Yeah.
used to it?
Yeah, well, that's just it. It really grounds it
Mhm.
in. I mean, and Tony Gilroy was very relentless in the way he grounded it
Mhm.
in what we know and what's familiar to us, right?
Mhm.
Similar to maybe Battlestar Galactica does this. A lot of shows that are so in universes in contexts that are just so out there.
Mhm.
They if they want to show a more complicated,
Mhm.
difficult show,
Mhm.
they do that. They make the ordinary. With Edie, it's bread and circuses, right? That's the
Mhm.
exact thing. It's let's give them this nice, funny, fluffy thing to
Mhm.
distract them from the atrocities.
Mhm.
That being said, we're talking about a Star War here. I'm all, and I was all for hell yeah, the Rebel Alliance. Oh yeah, Space Wizards. That's the circuses can also say something inadvertently
Mhm.
sometimes, but in this case, yeah, with Edie, definitely. How do I feel about it? Again, it feels well. That's just it. It refuses to make it. Here's the irony of it.
Mhm.
It makes it less of a circus and more of a real commentary.
Mhm.
And so we're gonna have that in our minds, even if that fourth arc is more the Star War, which I think
Mhm.
it's going to be more of the Star War. We'll get into that,
Yeah.
but yeah, it really. I mean, it makes us feel. I mean, with Edie specifically, it makes us feel.
The show made me feel bad for Edie, and I did not like
Well,
that.
no, it didn't make me feel. I was going to say the opposite. I was going to
I
say it made
I
me
felt a
kind of
little sad for
feel.
her a little
Yeah,
bit.
that last thing where the tear trickling down. Yeah, but
She kept the spider though
yeah,
It's
I mean,
true.
maybe kind of feel bad. I guess just because.
until
I mean,
Ghorman sees her.
we all know people of that generation who are,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
either burying their head in the
Grandparents
sand
who are watching too many Fox News.
or watching Fox News.
Mhm.
But even, I mean, that's not so much burying their head in the sand. That's,
Mhm.
I'd almost rather
Mhm.
folks watch cat videos on YouTube than
Yeah.
Fox News. You know what I mean? At this point,
I'd rather they bury their head in the sand than watch
yeah,
that.
That's true. Me too.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
I'll say this. I do think, we
Yeah.
have. I think, I'm all for one for ones. Don't get me wrong. But I do. I mean, it's like if it's done tastefully, it's not like, it's like. And next, it's Tucker Carlson. Oh, and we're getting a live call from Emperor Palpatine
Well,
calling into the
no,
station.
you know what it is. It's Newt
I mean,
Gingrich or Newt Gunray and Halle Bertoni, which I
Funny.
love. It's hilarious.
I mean, that's true. I mean,
Good old George.
Yeah.
although
But
funny enough, I feel
Yeah,
like
George.
you wouldn't know if you knew in the context. Like I
Mhm.
didn't know for years
Yeah.
that's what that meant until
Yeah,
someone
me
told me.
neither,
So,
but
Because we were kids.
yeah,
that's true.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's true. I'm now just
You're just
imagining
like,
Palpatine calling
this is
into Empire
silly.
News, and Palpatine calling into Empire News, going the Ghorman.
No, he's like
cared about the
live
Ghorman.
tweeting it
It's like-
from his golden toilet.
oh yeah.
That's
Oh,
not
he's
a
live
commentary on
he's live
anybody
tweeting it
right
from the Sith
now.
Right.
shrine under the palace. He's in the Sith shrine just tweeting about the
The
Ghorman.
shrine is just his
Where the
canon.
blight is?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, he's been to the Sith shrine. That's canon. He goes there
It's
to
true.
meditate.
It's true. Chief Palpatine is the blight.
It's
There we
true.
go.
I mean,
I still need to finish Into the Light, which is sad, but
I finished it
I
today.
know.
Oh my god! I finished it before going to Japan,
I know.
and
Oh, that's right because you got
Anyway,
anyway, well, yeah.
but
But
203 years in the future.
I
You're going.
think that it's super important
Yes.
Yeah.
that, like, we see the way that the propaganda machine works in the Empire, right? Because it's not just Good Morning Coruscant. It's not just the journalists who are covering what's happening on Ghorman, spreading lies. And it's not just the journalists that are in the Senate who are actively covering the political fallout of the Ghorman Massacre. We've been exposed to the HoloNet before. And it was in ways that we could kind of trust in the Republic era, right?
Yes.
And then so if you start off being able to trust a news source and slowly it descends into something god-awful, and a propaganda machine and a mouthpiece for a evil dictatorial totalitarian regime, that is very hard to stomach because you're like, but I've been able to trust them in the past.
Cognitive dissonance. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And it's even so difficult to hold on to news sources these days because they'll find ways to be like, well, this is normal. And it's like, this is not normal. You need to be calling these things what they are and stop pretending like we don't know better, you know? And it really sucks to see because there are some news outlets in Canada that I used to cite religiously in high school essays and things. And I'm like, I don't trust you very much anymore.
Right.
I think you're I think that you're actually too far on one side, like on a very specific side of the political spectrum for you to be a trustworthy source anymore. And yet I'm seeing people on the internet call them a leftist source. And I'm like, how far right are you if you think that this centrist at best news source is left-wing propaganda?
That's America for you in spades.
Well, it's probably also in Canada too, you're referring to.
Truly.
I'm guessing.
Oh, North America. North America.
I mean, the Overton window is what we're getting at too.
Yeah.
It's just, well, it's your screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Am I good?
We're good.
Okay,
No, we're
sorry.
good. I was just talking about the Overton window.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, my whole special interest with history is literally propaganda, and I'm like, this is the stuff I eat up in Star Wars.
Yeah,
I literally
this has been your
have fallen asleep with Pablo Hidalgo's Star Wars propaganda book.
Oh my gosh.
In my arms.
I actually was talking about
so
that
good.
book the other day.
It's so good. It's so good. And I need
Oh,
a new edition of it.
Yes,
I need
that's
to
true, too.
know. I need to know all of the intricacies of the propaganda that the Empire used against Ghorman.
Yeah.
Because we got a taste of it in the first arc, but I'm like, I need to know. I need to know because I need to deeply analyze this. I have my theories based off of other propaganda, but I need to know.
Yeah.
And it's not going to make me happy.
No.
I mean, so interesting. I want to talk about that
a
bit. I know we're kind of going all over the place here, but
sorry.
No,
that propaganda. I mean, so I guess was it in the first week or second week I brought up the Holocaust parallel, and and
last week.
And I'll bet it doesn't. Ghorman Massacre doesn't fully go there.
It doesn't go there. It's the steps are slightly different.
The steps are slightly different. I will say
the steps are met.
Yeah. What really struck me though is the demonization. That's where I was coming from there.
Well, you see that in the first arc as well, right? So, because part of it is the dehumanization, and there they were in their Wannsee conference. I mean, I don't remember the name of that place, but that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and
they were talking about. They were dehumanizing the Gors and likening them to bugs. They were likening them to spiders. And I was like, I know where this leads.
Yeah.
I know where this leads. I know World War II propaganda. I know it very well. And I know even just, how am I going to word this? The things that Western people will say about people from other locations and comparing them to animals and using that to dehumanize
non-white people, we call
non-white people. There's a lot of things that are very messed up in our society, and so it definitely it is a horrifying Venn diagram of people who aren't in a position of power being compared to animals, and then everyone turning against them and using that and perpetuating that and thinking nothing is wrong with it.
Right. What was I gonna say? The fascinating thing is if I was to pay more attention to the Wannsee conference, the one that Krennic's conference there.
I can't remember the name of the place.
Yeah.
The Maltine Divide. That's it.
It wasn't the Holocaust. It was Bush going into Iraq, Right. It was for resources.
There was an Iraq vibe to it, I felt too. I was talking to some friends about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, their whole planning to go into Iraq and say, "We want your oil," because this was, and now it wasn't just oil. It was, I mean, even on the guy, if it was just oil, if it was just energy, Galen Erso was right. It was just energy. Okay, maybe you can, not for the genocide part, but the whole, if the Empire was trying to find renewable source of energy, maybe they could have negotiated with the maybe they could have figured something out. But it was for the Death Star.
But it was
there's actually
the gouge mining.
I had a friend also, a friend of ours who's on the Discord, have this kind of dark but sad theory where, and I'm curious to get everyone's take on it. What if Galen lied? What if there is an alternative to the thingy they want, but he's trying to delay the Death? Yeah, what if there is, but he was just trying to delay the Death Star again? That he lied. It's like, actually, no, there is, but I'm not going to tell you, Krennic, because I want to keep delaying this bad boy as much as possible. And then it's like, oh shoot, you might have accidentally caused the Ghorman Massacre, Galen.
I blame Galen. Yeah. I blame Galen in part. Either passively or directly. Galen was part of that. Honestly, if I was Galen Erso, I'm not going to say what I would do but let's just say it starts with an S. Well, and the end of it is because it would have set them back.
He doesn't redeem himself fully, but that's
his redemption is cut short.
It's an interesting angle perspective on it, right? Yeah, like this inadvertent. So this is what I'm going to jump to this now. This is kind of, we'll talk about this again at the end, but I think the fourth arc rather, is going to be about the Death Star. I wonder. Yeah, if we're gonna see, actually, I don't know if we'll see Galen or Jin, but we're definitely gonna see Krennic.
We have to.
Yeah.
Ben Mendelsohn has to be allowed to be fruity again.
Yeah, he's so great.
I think there are actually scenes in the trailer that we have not seen with Krennic
yet.
There
are scenes in the trailer that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
There's very few, but they're there.
Yeah.
And there's also like an extended trailer that I saw at Celebration. We haven't seen things from that yet. And it was like, what's happening this season at Andor? And I was like, oh, nobody else is gonna get to see this. This is exclusive.
Yeah.
This is great. This is wonderful. I'm
didn't
stressed.
see it at all.
You didn't, and I don't remember it.
I know. I mean, I probably could find it one day. Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's a dark thought. But yeah. What was I trying to say? Oh yeah. Another thing about the gore. And I'm talking about, the Iraq and the other and stuff like that, and obviously how we treat non-white people. I actually have actually talked to some folks, and we've talked about this, and I'm going curious about like making the Ghorman humans. Because that's actually something I've always felt about just on-screen Star Wars. You get a little bit more in the books and and definitely the supplementary material of like, well, okay, if the Empire is a fascist regimes like to uphold a certain status quo for a certain group. That's how multi-ethnic republics become ethnically dominated empires. It's more complex. More or less. I don't have time to go into all this. The thing is, we have seen this whole series. I mean, yes, obviously. Fascist regime eventually stop caring about they oppress everybody. Doesn't matter. But we have seen a lot more of just human on human violence. And there is almost like a, what are, it's like, we don't really see what they do with like the Wookiees and the people. And so it's like, I don't know. I feel like maybe they could have made the Ghormans more alien. Just put little Bajoran noses on them. Like
there is a complexity with that as well.
Yeah.
Because again, I bring it up when I'm talking about the Narkina 5 arc, and I bring it up here when I'm talking about the gore. So there's a reason why the Narkina 5 prison was for human men. And it's because it's so clean, it's so sterile. When you look at the labor intensity, it is basically an old lady prison. And that's because they perceive human men as being the very top.
Yeah.
Right. When we look at places like Wobani, where Jin is, we have women, we have aliens. Yes, we still have human men, but there's a lot more. I don't like using this word here, but it's true. We see a lot more diversity in the prison population. And like prisons like Wobani were more heavily discussed in the Empire. Narkina 5 was a little bit of a secret. They wanted to kind of, I think, try to make it look like, oh, well, human men don't commit that many crimes, right? And then, the Narkina 5 prisoners had access to hygiene, access to food, access to clean clothing, all of these things that weren't afforded to other prisoner populations, right? It was still bad. It was still slavery, but they were given things that other prisoners weren't. And, even the Imperial officer at the beginning is like, you'll notice that our place is a lot cleaner than other prisons you may have been to. And he treats that as a point of pride while standing in front of these men. And then with the gore, because of what they're doing, it is meant to send, and I'm going to discuss this again when we talk about the speech, but there is a reason why it matters in this story that they're human. Because it is the beginning of that slippery slope that leads directly to Alderaan. It is telling you no one is safe, right? The galaxy will write off, the genocide of the Geonosians, the Kaminoans, all of these other groups. The second that it happens to a human population of about 800,000, and then they're also outnumbered by the Gorlectopods, I think, based off of those numbers. But, you have this human population that has been a problem, a thorn in the Empire's side for as long as Mon Mothma has been. You slaughter them, and suddenly even human worlds that may have been thinking about standing up are going to rethink that. So you tighten your grasp on worlds like Alderaan, Chandrilla, Naboo, all of these other places.
It's funny. It's so also like Vardos in Operation Cinder, right? That definitely comes up. The most loyal imperial place. Nobody's safe. But I mean, Joel, to your point, though, on the other hand, it's they can do this to white humans. They can do this to, they're unstoppable. We've got to find a way to stop them. It's hard to describe. It's kind of this weird underbelly of just our rebellion and our outrage. It's why Ukraine got so much more airplay than Palestine. Right?
100%.
And to say now, both are terrible.
Right? I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to be
at first. I think now it's
no. I was going to talk about Star Wars, about like how I don't want to get too cynical about the rebel. Oh no, let me finish.
I'm not getting cynical. I'm just saying.
No. What I want to say is
something to ask about people's motivations. Even Mon Mothma's motivations.
Well,
right?
let me.
Like, how come this is what gets her over the edge? And it's almost to say, our complicity in racist ideas is almost it's almost inescapable.
Yeah.
There are just things that are going to get us moving.
Even still, she was trying throughout those years, but I think that,
well, I was.
There has to be a reason. Yeah, there has to be a reason.
Sorry. Oh, you want to jump in?
I was just saying that, I mean, this is something, again, we talked about one of our comments a couple weeks ago from our friend Red Leader. Hi, Red, you're listening, about how, the rebellion, as good as their intentions are, I totally believe in Mon Mothma's belief in diversity and democracy and all that. But, at the end of the day, it's when the more affluent, institutionalized humans start to pull together, do you get a more organized chain of command rebellion with with money and resources, like even the Mon Cala, who are the more privileged aliens compared to the Mimban from Solo, who are probably just got scraps and can't do anything, or even Saw's
literal
group,
mud,
or Saw's group, who maybe are larger, but even they're not getting that much done either. So it's like when these more institutionalized, humanized groups come together, it's like, oh, here's an actual rebellion that kind of we can win. But yeah, that's definitely that's a whole other topic we can get into one day.
Yeah.
Humans in Star Wars.
Mhm.
Go, let's talk about it in Rise and Fall. Go read that.
I love Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. My copy is signed now.
It's so good. It's so good.
So good. Beaumont
let-
Kin's real problem: he's never watched Star Wars.
No. But let's talk about the characters for a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about our sad boy Cyril Karn. He is Cyril, and we forgot his name. I can't. I was thinking that the whole time.
Jesus fuck.
I can't help it. I was thinking about. No. Actually,
It's set on space, France. Ash.
I mean, actually,
No, I know. I know.
all we need
Exactly.
is the bishop and to give him some gold candlesticks.
I know.
It's Cassian? Who's
yeah,
giving Cassian gold candlesticks?
Why
Is that
not? Or
Lucid?
silver candlesticks. Why not?
I mean, it's funny because we were talking about the musical, and I'm like, oh my god, they actually are going to start singing the Gore anthem, which is really
Can you
beautiful,
hear
by the
the
way.
people sing?
I know, it's so
I have
good,
thoughts
that
about
film.
that. I have thoughts about that.
Anyway,
many
Joel,
thoughts.
go ahead.
Oh yeah. But anyway, yeah, we're getting there. Cyril's finally starting to crack. And and I was very curious, like, okay, he's starting to crack. Cyril's finally I've been talking about this for a while about how Cyril's a weird guy because like
So
he
weird.
has this twisted sense of justice, and it's been throughout the whole show. Like he goes
Mhm.
after Cassian because Cassian does kill his two coworkers.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of deserved it, but
Yeah.
Cassian kills him. He does commit a crime, and Cyril's like, "Hey, you shouldn't do that. It's terrible. You kill my coworkers," and just like goes in on it. Only he doesn't realize, oh wait, I'm supporting an evil system, and then he finally sees that, and he's like having like this mental breakdown, and you're always kind of wondering, what's Cyril gonna do? What's Cyril gonna do? And Cyril has what I call a Darth Maul moment. So I call it a Darth Maul moment because it's like he's so broken. And then you see, like, this is his Kenobi. This is the one thing I can, like, Andor, and they just go for it in, like, the most violent, punchy, just thing ever. And, like, oh my god. And then just at the end, when Andor goes, "Who are you?" Which, by the way, I think that's a Rogue One reference because that's what Krennic says to Jin.
Yeah.
So and then Cyril's just like, Cyril's like about to cry. It's like, everything for nothing, and then
Cassian
bang.
never saw Cyril's face until now.
so
he only
wild,
saw
like,
the
didn't
back
he?
of his head.
I
Yeah.
know it's something. But let me ask you, Ash, what do you think of our sad boy Cyril, or the end of our sad boy,
Okay.
our little
So,
corpo?
here's the thing. I think Cyril Karn is an interesting, well-written, fascinatingly developed
Mhm.
incel of a human being.
He really
And
is.
I'm not wrong. He is the epitome of a nice guy. And again,
Huh.
but at this, like, while he has kind of evolved, he's still the same guy that we know from season 1. He's
Mhm.
still on this weird crusade to find a guy who never saw his face and who he thinks is like, ah, yes, this is my mortal nemesis. When we meet again, he'll know exactly who I am and he'll be sorry for what he did. Cassian has never seen your face, my dude. He saw the back of your head. And that's overall not a great way to remember somebody.
Unless you're Genevieve O'Reilly.
And
Sorry.
I love her. I will remember the back of her head for the rest of my life. The back of her head
I
on
had
that
to.
day. I was staring at it for 20 minutes.
I had to, Ash. I had to.
Occasionally,
Sorry,
like, my
keep going.
eyes would glance and I'd be like, oh, Tony Gilroy's here. And then I'd be back to Genevieve. Oh, Adria Arjona's here.
Anyway, Cyril.
And then Cyril. But in season 1, when this is gonna sound crazy. This is gonna sound so crazy. Because okay, anyways, the woman that he perceives as kind of being like, oh, she should listen to me because she's listened to me before.
Mhm.
I am going to grab her and now force her to listen to me. He is still that same man in season 2. He has not come to the realization of you do not grab a woman, especially on a dark street after a curfew has been instated and nobody will come to her rescue.
Right.
And the difference between what he does in season 1 with Dedra, because Dedra has the upper hand. They're right outside the ISB. if she called for help, people would come. Enza does not have that privilege, even on her own home city streets. And he is also physically large. Enza is teeny tiny compared to the rest of the Ghorman front. Cyril could have talked to Sam. He could have talked to Caro. He corners Enza in the middle of a dark street and becomes physical with her, right? And so, you know, I was like, damn, if her boyfriend or her father find out about this, Cyril's gonna fucking regret what he did. And we have no proof that she told Dylan or Caro, but Caro still got that shot off anyways. I'm like, damn, Cyril, you were killed by a pacifist. You were killed by a pacifist. Do you know how bad you have to be killed by a pacifist?
Yeah.
I know. That was great.
It was like watching Satine Kryze kill somebody or Mon Mothma kill somebody.
Well, I mean, we did see Mon Mothma do that once.
I mean, yeah, it's true. But that was to rescue other people. But like, you know, and I just think, because again, I don't hate the character of Cyril Karn.
No.
I hate people who are like him in real life.
Yes.
But at the same time, and I think part of it is Kyle Soller is just a great actor and he seems so likable. And again, like he and Denise have this kind of relationship that makes you be like, this is great. This is weird, but this is great.
Yeah.
And I became a Kiro randomly and I was like, I don't like this. This is weird. That was the driest kiss Star Wars has ever seen.
Yep.
And Luke and Leia should hold that title.
It's true.
But like,
yep.
Andor holds the title for what might be the wettest and the driest kisses in Star Wars. Bix and Cassian, and then Dedra and Cyril. But there was no way out of this for Cyril that would have made sense because I don't think that he really had it in him to change. And the fact that I bring up like him grabbing Enza because I think that is proof that he has not changed. He still has this whole self-righteousness thing going on and he feels like he has to be in power over situations and people. And that's also something that Dedra has. But she has slightly more of a mandate for it in the context of the show.
Right.
As an ISB supervisor. You know, he's an ex-cop. He is part of the Bureau of Standards. Like, dude, who are you?
Exactly. Matthew, I'll toss it to you. We've talked a lot about speculating Cyril's fate. What did you make of it?
I mean, it was disappointing. I was like, oh, is he actually going
in a good
I think
or in
a good story way, but I felt disappointed by it, right? Which was intentional, was well written, to be clear.
Cyril would be disappointed too. Damn.
But because I think so Ash, at May the 4th we were talking about this at dinner and Dom and Dean and us, we were all talking about how Cyril really looks for authority figures, and I think maybe was it last week I talked about how if he has the capacity to turn, it's because he doesn't need Dedra's approval anymore. Having had gone to therapy for having used to be a nice guy. If you're a nice guy, go to therapy, guys.
Ex nice guy Cyril Karn went to therapy.
No. Like so what I'm saying, so as in, I'm really glad you brought that up because I frankly, I'll confess, I didn't see it. I didn't know, and now you get that moment. Yeah, I'm gonna watch with that moment again. Yeah, it's true. He doesn't have the capacity. When a guy is treating a woman like that, it's because he wants to make her approve of him. And so he hasn't transcended that need, and therefore he hasn't been able to become part of what Star Wars says heroism is, which is to become part of something bigger than yourself and contribute actively to it and to treat people with respect and care. There's that. But Yeah, so I was disappointed because I was kind of hoping maybe because
Mhm.
again, looking back to my past, I can relate a little bit.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah, and so be good to see the story of a nice guy actually convert and turn, and
Mhm.
I'm sure we have those stories too, but this one
Yeah.
wasn't, and it's a cautionary tale of yeah, that this thing eats you
Mhm.
alive to the point where you piss off her pacifist dad. You're right.
Off her
Enough.
pacifist dad,
I
who might
know.
not even know that you grabbed her in the middle of a
Yeah.
dark street. Like,
But he
but
knows. He's a dad. He knows.
he 100% knows. But
You
here's
can
the
tell.
thing. Also, I think
Yeah.
that if Cyril didn't need Dedra's approval anymore, I think that he still would have been looking for the approval of an authority figure.
Yeah.
And Caro might have been that authority figure. But again, what happened in that year? And
Yeah.
also, when you look at Dylan's mere existence, he has kind of the aura of a bit of a tough guy, right? Like
Mhm.
he's physically like broader than Cyril. Like he carries
Yeah.
himself like a guy who, you know, is ready to throw down. And maybe in Cyril's mind, he's just like, okay, that's the type of guy Enza likes. So if I grab her in the middle of this street to try to make her listen to me, she might think that that's
yeah.
hot. And of course she doesn't.
That is the
She's
kind
like,
of
"What are
warped
you
thinking
doing?"
that does go on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like the jealousy of that, right? Whereas that's
'Cause, like,
not what I mean.
yeah.
Maybe she finds that a
Yeah.
bit attractive, but
Mhm.
also he treats her with kindness and respect.
Yeah,
Who'd
right?
have thunk, right?
And I think it's also like part of the nice guy mentality. Like, oh,
Yeah.
well, she likes this guy with all these muscles and he's a bit of a bad guy and I'm so nice. And it's just like,
Mhm.
yeah, but he's also really nice to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And so like that's super important because again, like when we get to the scenes with the massacre, Enza's safety is so important to
Mhm.
Dylan as well.
Yeah.
Whereas Cyril's just like standing in the crowd, like,
Mhm.
I don't know what to do. And one of my other friends brought up, like, I think that after the showdown with Dedra, he
Mhm.
was about to go and try to find Enza again. But then seeing her with Dylan and Lazine, he was just like, okay, no, I gotta freaking back off.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was like, I can't. He's like, I can grab her. Facing off against these two guys, hell no.
Yeah.
They would
Also-
beat me to a pulp. Like,
Mhm.
Although, like, during that scene when he's kind of having his little mental breakdown, like, I also couldn't help but laugh. It's like, dang, he's getting lucky he's not getting blasted by both sides. Like,
Yeah.
those bullets are just
This
missing.
is like he's one with the force, and the force is with him.
I know. I'm one with the incel. The incel's with
he's
me.
like an incel chirurg.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. It's like,
But
anyway.
yeah, let's get to Dedra a little bit because her reaction is also
Mhm.
interesting too. Because she's also kind of. I mean, she's keeping it together a little bit better than he is for
Yeah.
sure. But I really liked kind of seeing the end of her having her anxiety
Mhm.
attack because she kind of knows he's dead. But also, it's interesting because it's sort of like, so many people in real life probably as well. I think they're all there. I actually was reading interesting Holocaust stuff. I actually
Mhm.
saw an interesting post a friend of mine showed me a while back comparing Dedra to Himmler and how apparently
Mhm.
after an execution at one of the camps, Himmler like just vomited because he just couldn't take seeing that.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's like they're almost like Dedra's like almost trying to repress her conscience, what little conscience she
Mhm.
probably has, that
Mhm.
human
Yeah.
instinct conscience, as she kind of having her little panic attack, but just like gotta keep it together.
Mhm.
Gotta calibrate my enthusiasm, as Pargaz would say. I love Pargaz. And it's very interesting, and I think I'm sure we'll see this probably a lot next episode. My guess is she's probably just gonna double down to find. She's gonna find her. You're gonna have her mom moment with Lucen. That's my guess. Matthew, I'll toss this one to you. What
Yeah.
did you think of Dedra this episode as well?
I mean, it was really fascinating to see the cracks,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
Even with Cyril. I mean, that's the funny thing is Yeah, I mean, it's the sad twisted thing is that in season 1, he's inselling her. He's gonna, she ends up eating up this attention, drinking this attention to the point where she's like, yeah, okay, I'll come home to him. Why not? And then, using him to be this kind of this agent on Ghorman. On Ghorman. This is the name of the place. The planet. Yeah, again, to see the cracks here in her conscience and in her sense of she knows what's happening. It was her idea in the first place. And yet she's having trouble with it. Also, there's that other that captain that comes in to actually do the massacring.
That
and
guy.
she feels like she's lost the control. Right. She isn't the one calling the shots. She's lost the control that she thought she had and she's come to rely on. And so it's this weird mix of actual possible turning toward the light, her conscience, try to stuff it down, but at some point it's gonna barf out. And also these sort of imperial bureaucratic motivations of, it's just I'm losing my place in the empire. What do I do? This is hard as well. And so I'm very curious to see where where she lands, because again, it could be, frankly, I think it could still be one or the other, to be honest. I don't know what side of her. I mean, as she said, she's probably going to be suffer Tarkin's fate. And Anakin and Obi-Wan's and Palpatine's fate. But there's a possibility that this is me kind of maybe wishful thinking here. Yeah, we all hope Cyril had turned. What if Dedra finishes Cyril's turn? Actually, want to say something about Dedra.
Yes. Oh God. I have a lot to say about Dedra, but I'm gonna kind of stick to this.
We still gotta talk about Mospa too.
Right. Anyways, so the thing about Dedra in this season specifically is that in interviews, Denise Goff was talking about how to prepare for the role of Dedra, she studied female psychopathy. And the thing that really stood out to her for playing Dedra was that female psychopaths will oftentimes instead of doing the actual act themselves, they manipulate someone to do it for them. And that is the role that Cyril fills. And I love the way that Denise Goff basically talks about Dedra as if she is like a sleep paralysis demon, because I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
That works. And I do think that that's a really important key way of looking at her. Not just maybe not so much in season 1, but season 2. Cyril at the end of season 1 was able to see her at her most vulnerable. And now at the beginning of season 2, they're living together. And she holds the reins in that relationship. Right? She's the one negotiating with his mother. He'll keep calling you unless you cause him too much anxiety. Which is very important because Edie was the type of mother who was very controlling with her son, right? And he latched on to essentially her approval in the beginning. That shifted to Dedra. And then after essentially losing faith in Dedra and again becoming physical with her because he hasn't learned his lesson, he is lost and he doesn't know what to do because he doesn't have that authority figure anymore. It was a seamless transition from Edie to Dedra. Cut that off and he is lost. He no longer knows who he is. So when he is asked, "Who are you?" how the hell is he supposed to respond?
Right.
He's a broken
because he no longer has any connection to anything or anyone.
I mean, it gets me thinking, what happened with him and the Ghorman Front folks. I mean, I think they refused to give him that authority approval that he was looking for because they're a more egalitarian organization.
Yeah.
And there's obviously more legitimate forms of authority, but he's a grown man, right?
Mhm.
If you're an adult, you're contributing to something mutually. Yes, there's a hierarchy and a structure, but that's always at service to what the operation is doing, like we saw with Val, right? You know, and how that went south when they did it. But
Right.
yeah, I think he was looking for another replacement because Dedra's off on Coruscant doing her thing, and they just wouldn't give it to him, and so he resented that.
And the way that it's kind of shown in the previous week's arc, like episodes 4 through 6, is that, you know, it's like, yeah, they all are kind of able to speak their minds until Vel and Cinta come in, and Vel's like, don't talk, don't even think. Right? Which I'm like, that's a great way to get people to trust your leadership, is to behave like the very thing that you're fighting against. And I love Vel, I love Cinta, but I was like, this arc, I wasn't vibing with what they were giving, right? Especially with the Ghorman front. But they're like, when Karo is not there, it's kind of like an unspoken rule that Enza's the one in charge. And a woman who's not giving him the attention that he wants, being in charge of him, is not something Cyril Karn can vibe with. Right? Because he's probably sat there watching, you know, Dylan and Enza, and Dylan's like, you know, wrapping his arm around her or whatever, and she's listening to him, but she's not she's like, Cyril, you have a job to do, and that's to give us information. That is what you do here. You know, you are not in charge. You're not even close to being like second in command, right? And yeah, sure, the Ghorman front has a lot to learn, and they are impatient in a lot of ways. But again, the point of the last arc wasn't that there were people who there weren't people who were objectively right and objectively wrong. Like Cassian was right when he's like, you need to be more careful. Enza's right when she's like, it's hard to be patient when your whole world is falling apart. Vel was right where she's like, you guys need somebody just telling you what to do. And Sam, very much in going against that, like, yeah, he screwed up big time. And he knows, he was able to feel the impact of what he had done. He and Lazine indirectly caused Cinta's death, right? He pulled the blaster. He did not need to accelerate that. But at the same time, he's a kid, right? And so, you know, and of course, like, he sat there crying. Lazine's like holding dead Cinta. And, you know, of course Vel's going to be upset. Like, she was not wrong, right? She knows that once you bring weapons into a situation, it's going to escalate. Right. And they were trying to avoid that. Right. But at the same time, if they had been caught, leaving the entire group, aside from Vel and Cinta, unarmed, would have been just as dangerous and would have got them all killed. Right. So, you know, yeah, Vel is correct. Everyone else was correct as well, except for Luthen. Luthen was just like, I mean, it'll burn brightly. And Cassian's like, why do I not want to see that happen? That's horrifying.
And I mean, like, Luthen's the one who sends Vel and Cinta there, right?
Exactly. Right? They were the outside agitators that the Empire
fellow travelers.
It was like, so it was like, again, like, I love Vel, I love Cinta, but that last arc, I was like, I am loyal to the Ghorman front, and you are not that.
Well, I mean, there's so much we can talk about Ghorman, but I feel like we got to talk about Mon. It's 7:10.
Well, I just want to talk a little bit more about Ghorman. Sorry.
Okay, well,
I'm not done yet, though. Because I do want to pick up on this, because I think there's the last little bit here because we're okay going a bit longer.
Yeah. Okay, you're fine
Yeah.
with it. That's fine. Okay.
So Vel being right,
Mhm.
all this is built up, and Joel, I think maybe your point, you said this like an hour ago. If the season ended here, if the series ended here, I mean, the Ghorman front is this climax, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Sorry, the Ghorman Massacre is the climax.
Mhm.
It's all this powder keg leading up leading up to the Ghorman Massacre, everything working into the Empire's favor, because everything has to lead to Alderaan, as we mentioned. Vel being right, she's right in a context where she can't be heard. Like, this
Mhm.
was going to happen. This was going to escalate because of
Mhm.
where the Gorman front was, right? That's why
Mhm.
Cassian says, no, don't. Let's just not. Let's
Mhm.
get it a dodge. And Luthen
Yeah.
sends Vel in anyway
Mhm.
to take an action, be an
Mhm.
outside agitator.
And also,
So,
like Lazine points out, he's just like, we know what they're doing. You don't need to prove to us
yes.
what they're doing. And the
Yeah.
Gorman front's like, but you know what we should do?
Hmm.
We need to prove that they're building this ugly ass armory.
Yeah. So
It does not match our aesthetic at all.
yeah. So it's not, it's all
Mhm.
about an aesthetic thing. No, I'm just kidding. So
They're compensating for something.
yes,
Sorry, that's
clearly.
a comment
Well,
someone
clearly.
made in the middle of a meeting.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So
Think
all
about
this
it.
then is leading to, in this last episode, where
Yeah.
can you hear the people sing the Song of Angry Men? I mean, we keep rolling in the references here, but
I'm not the only one who's thinking Les Mis when I'm watching this,
so
okay?
anyway, while I'm saying
Gorman
this,
production of Les Mis when?
there we go. When they're gathering, when they're
Mhm.
coming around, when they're starting to sing, when they're starting to chant, like, yes, they're angry, yes, they're frustrated. Do they know what they're dealing with here? Do they know who the Empire really is? Maybe they don't. Maybe they think, maybe they've expected, they remember, they have this long memory of their textile industry and everything, all the traditions about that, and the freedom of the Republic. Do they think this is going to end well by having this mass demonstration? They just had this Tarkin massacre, just 15 years, 16 years before this?
16 or 17 years ago.
Something around there.
Never mind.
Like, and we know what's coming. It's just this feeling of anxious expectation. The
It's a trap.
It's trap. Literally, they close it up. It's a powder keg ready to go up.
Caro's saying it's a trap.
It's a powder keg ready to go up, and I'm like, they kind of, they're being, in a democratic regime, what they're doing is great. Love it, here for it. In this context, they're kind of helping the Empire. They're escalating this, just like, they're not responsible. I'm not blaming them, but I'm just saying, they're not complicit in it. I'm just saying, if only cooler heads had prevailed.
They knew that they were doomed. Once they heard the rumors of the mining equipment and Caro's panic when he was like, what is in our ground that you want to steal from us? Right? Because, that removes all of the like, oh, well, we just need to gently mine because they're doing this.
Yeah.
If it was just regular mining, they wouldn't have been so secretive about it. And with the demonstration, there was a lot of like really there was a very hot-headed approach in the beginning, but even knowing that they were doomed, Lazine followed through with the idea of don't die giving the Empire what they want. To give them something that show them who you are. Do not let them take that from you. And so in singing about their home, singing their anthem, and he's able to get everyone in the square to do this. And it's so incredibly important because it does mostly cool the situation down. to the point where these Imperial cadets need to re-escalate it by shoving back. And then the Empire needs to shoot first because they're like, sniper, they're not going to start this, right? They were literally counting on a Ghor shooting first, but they were like, this isn't going to happen. And that's why the sniper had to do it. And oh my God, can I just talk about one little thing? When the translation of the Ghor anthem is saying, let me spend my every day there. Of course, they're talking about their home, but that's the moment where Dylan puts his arm around Enza and like presses his cheek against the top of her head and like convince me that he doesn't see his girlfriend as his home. This boy, orphaned in the Tarkin massacre, orphaned. The Ghorman front, his family, his girlfriend, his home. How did he get his job? His girlfriend.
Here's some good comments.
That's a good point. Yeah, basically, okay. So, Ash, I guess what you and maybe Red are saying then is, kind of what we thought would happen here is show the Empire tightening its fists so that the star systems will slip through their fingers. Yeah, I guess exposed. Well, yeah, because they say, record this, write this down, show to Cassian, tell people about this. That's interesting. They were giving themselves up as martyrs.
Yeah,
as actual martyrs.
And I think, and I think this is actually a good point because I think what we get to Alderaan.
Okay.
I was thinking about. So I'm going to go back to the last arc and get to the final episode of the rich dad kind of saying to Cyril. And I'm never quite sure if he actually believes this or he's just playing to Cyril. So I'm gonna. Well, that's important. Of like, we think that the Emperor has been controlled by ISBs, like shadow government, and I think this is the Ghorman Massacre is the transition in terms of people's political popularity and their perception of. It's just a few bad eggs of the Empire to Mon Mothma's now. Like, no, the blame lies directly with Emperor Sheev Palpatine himself. He is the monster. He is the evil. There is no good Emperor situation. He is evil incarnate, which we as an audience know, but the galaxy But the galaxy might not know.
They haven't been watching Star Wars. They've been living it.
I know.
Yeah. Fair enough. So I guess like you guys are seeing me realize this. Thank you, Josh. Right in real time. Yeah. Okay. So they're giving themselves up as martyrs, so they'll burn brightly enough for the rest of the galaxy.
And there's also a reason. There has to be a reason why Cassian in Episode 7 is referred to as a messenger, and then in Episodes 8 and 9, he's a journalist.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Whereas the last time he went to Ghorman, he was Varian Sky, fashion designer. Now he's Ronnie Guja, journalist. And Thela saw right through that. He's like, Varian Sky is like, no, my name is Ronnie Guja. It's like, I don't buy that for a second. Both of these are fake names. Rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah.
And Cassian carried that with him and delivered that message to Jyn, who delivered it to Alliance High Command. And that's how the Ghorman legacy lives on.
It's funny, they're shouting for Jeddah and Rogue One. I want you to be shouting for Ghorman, man. That's the real battle cry should always be. I need the New Republic book now of like Mon going to the remnants of Ghorman, like Ghorman Remembrance Day, where she goes every year.
There is a memorial to the missing Ghorman. That is referenced in the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire because so many of them are dead, but they're unnamed.
Oh, that's sad. But now let's finally get to. I mean, we could talk about Ghorman all day. We could do.
I could talk about Ghorman all day.
But we really should get to Mothma.
I could also talk about Mon Mothma all day.
Yes, I mean, yeah. So let's get to this arc for finally here. Oh wow, this arc, it was something else. I mean, I have. Funny enough, I'm gonna get to this early so then we can get to the deep stuff. As much as the speech was great, I actually got more giddy after the speech because I'm like, oh my god, it's Diego Luna and Genevieve arriving in the same scene together. This is like the two characters who have been like almost like in different shows half the time.
Yeah,
we have merged them together, and it's just like seeing Mon and Cassian together, just like I got all giddy.
That's
What
also
was he
Mon's
waiting
face
for?
when Cassian shoots her driver.
Okay, but here's the thing. She just watched the second person die in her name.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
In her in the name of her protection in a matter of minutes, and this one she has a close personal connection
Yeah.
to.
No, it makes sense. It's just
So she's like,
I'm like, Mon, you blew up that one guy before.
look, Sujin, that was from a distance. And she nearly died doing that.
Yeah.
So it's
She has a
fine.
robot stomach now, too.
She has a robot stomach now. She doesn't have the stomach for these jokes.
Literally.
Mask of Fear, great film.
But
great film.
Great novel. Sorry. Great
I kind of
novel.
want to do a little bit prelude to this because we finally catch up with good old Luthen. And as you were saying, Matthew, Luthen's his star's kind of waning. He's sort of on the outs a little bit. What I found interesting about Luthen, though, and this was my take, is I feel like Luthen has all. I mean, again, this is something about that sort of deterministic view Luthen has for himself.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of knows his time's running out. I don't even want to say he's stubbornly not ready to accept it. I don't think he's just gonna go walk. I think he's gonna probably go die, literally die fighting. But I think he knows that, and goes back to season 1. He's getting to quote Star Wars. He's getting to the point where he knows Luke Skywalker's coming. He doesn't say that obviously, but for all intents and purposes, he's sort of like, my work's coming to an end. The Luke Skywalkers of the world are about to rise.
Yeah.
There is no Yavin for me. Which, speaking of, we talk about Holocaust and Palestine and all that stuff. Also, the Yavin thing is very interesting as well. That's very much like next year in Israel, or next year in Jerusalem, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it makes sense for the story, and in context, it's not.
No Jerusalem for me.
Yeah.
No Jerusalem for me.
That's interesting.
Hashtag Free Palestine.
Exactly.
And Mon and Bale would be saying Free Palestine too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also Saw, right? I mean, that's why Saw dies at the end of Rogue One. No Yavin for me. I mean, we see him and Bale, or him and Mon Mothma, the image on Adelon saying no Adelon for me either.
Yeah.
True. But it's very interesting. Luthen, I think, kind of is. I think he knows his time's running out. He's on a short, clock. And they're like, why aren't you going to Yavin? We could use it. Like, no Yavin for me, kid. I found that very interesting. I'll turn to you as someone who definitely, totally, I'm sure, is okay with Luthen. I mean, he treated Tacoma well. He had to send him to the rich people farm.
Send him to the rich people farm upstate. Oh my god.
That's where Luthen had to do.
You say that while I'm reading a message that says the Pope is aura farming.
The Pope is aura farming.
But how do you feel about kind of Luthen's almost resignation of, like, it's Mothma's turn to be the leader in the Faith Rebellion now. The Luke Skywalkers are coming. No Yavin for me.
I have known Luthen Rail was going to die since his monologue in episode 10 of season 1. He knows he's going to die. Those are the words of a man who does not intend to see it through. And that's why he knows that Mon Mothma is the leader that the rebellion needs now. Right? Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, Leia Organa, the people who have a plan for what comes after the fall of the Empire. Because Luthen and Saw do not have that. Their singular goal is the destruction of the Empire. There is not a world for them after that. That is their singular purpose, right? Clea Markey, I think there is a role for her in the rebellion and what comes next.
I hope so. I want her to live. Dang it. I love Clea.
Oh my god.
Sure, live, dang it.
I love her. And I'm really glad that season 2 has really leaned into more of, hey, Clea's a freaking hero, you guys, because she is. And I've been saying it since season 1. I'm like, Clea is what keeps Luthen together, right? She is the reason, like, she is the one person who can keep his head on straight, who can tell him what to do.
Yeah.
And so naturally, like Saw, Luthen has to die for the rebellion to come into its own, to become what it needs to be in this moment. And there's like that bit in Leia, Princess of Alderaan, because I never shut up about this book, where Leia's like listening to Mon. She's having a discussion with Mon. And she's thinking in her mind, like, maybe it's not a flag we'll rally behind, but a person. And she thinks that that person is going to be Mon Mothma, and she's right. And in this episode, Bale sees that as well. He's like, Gavin needs your leadership.
Right.
It's not an our leadership moment. It's a, you are what our cause needs.
Good thing Garn Bell Lipless wasn't there. He'd be just like...
And the proof is that she is willing to do this. She's willing to put her life at risk to speak truth to what happened. And I have it all written down here. Her whole speech.
We'll get there. I just want to add to that, the thing about Lucid and Saw, which I always bring up, and I brought it up a couple weeks ago, is, it's also interesting, again, that, they also kind of have proteges that do, we are what we grow beyond them. I always say Jin is Saw's protege, his daughter. As my friend Red in the comments would probably say, yes, Saw is Jin's, just as much Jin's dad as Galen. If maybe not even more so at some point. And Cassian is very much, Lucen's protege.
Yeah.
And I do think that Cassian is also growing beyond Lucen. He's got the skills Lucen taught him, being Sky's master and spy guy and the assassin. But also he's got a little bit more of that willingness to work with others, not always compartmentalize everything. Not that that's not the same bad thing, but go to the extremes, and also,
Cassian has something that he's fighting for.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
That Lucen doesn't quite.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we said in the first week, that it's the thing of what's the point. Here's a great film. Here's a great quote. A revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth having, right? V for Vendetta. Right? It's this thing of, Luthen and Saw don't...
I just realized why you said that with the first arc.
Well, no, I don't mean Mon Mothma, but in a way, but Luthen and Saw are all about letting go and trying to like seeking out martyrdom, which is not the point of martyrdom, right? It's about finding meaning in life, and Luthen and Saw have this nihilism about it.
I would say nihilism. I say it's fatalism before nihilism.
Or fatalism, fair.
To me, nihilism is more like, I give up, I don't care. Like,
it's true. Yeah, it's true. More like fatalism. But Saw's claim, I'll die before I see the Republic. Cassian saying Luthen seems more like the enemy now.
So
this is the point again where it becomes more Star Wars, right? It becomes where these guys, it becomes this thing, this Rebel Alliance, not just the Rebel Alliance, it becomes the alliance to restore the Republic. I don't think Saw Gerrera could live in a Republic. I don't think Luthen. They'd just be lost, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll say this: it would have been interesting because I love stories with one of my favorite shows is She-Ra, and one of the main characters just sort of has this whole "I'm going to die" kind of mentality. And the whole point of the series is basically, no, you should live. Dang it, that's the point. You need to live for something. And it would have been fascinating to like, what happens to Lucen and Saw if they're alive? Like, oh shoot, now we got to go to therapy or something. Like, we have to find something to live for now. It's like, dang it, we wanted to die.
Mon's mandating therapy for Lucen and Saw, and they're just like, can't do this. Our therapist will learn our secrets.
Luthen, Saw, like,
those secrets have been declassified. You're fine.
Characters that need therapy: Luthen, Saw, and Cyril all need therapy.
As Red said,
Lucen living would be hell for him. So true, bestie.
I guess. Okay, fair enough. Tolstoy nihilism, but
nihilism.
Fair enough, right? But no, I mean that's the point. They are very much not seeing themselves as they're. I mean, but I mean that's sort of the thing I love about Lucen and Saw as characters, and like they're in Star Wars, but you can't really do the whole dark side, light side dynamic with them completely. It's what makes them so cool.
Well, on that point though, very quickly, again, it's Bix who is this transition moment for Cassian.
Oh, totally.
Because we'll get to her at the end again, but that she says, okay, Cassian's life actually has a destiny, has a meaning, has a purpose,
Yeah.
and he has
Does
to
die
transcend.
sadly.
He has to transcend. He has to transcend Luthen in order to follow that, and also has to transcend her, which I thought was odd, but transcend Luthen and join this wider rebellion. Of course, he doesn't really get there until he's on Edu, about to assassinate Galen, and then he realizes, no, my life is about something else. And then he does have a good death at the end. And I'm Luthen. The Saw. I don't know if Saw has a good death. It'd be interesting how Luthen goes out. He might not have
Saw
as
has
good of a death,
a death. I mean, I like Saw's death in the movie. Fine. I mean, I think it's great. It's kind of he's just looking out at his daughter.
He
he
unhooks the Rido pump that he's got.
It's true. Yeah.
He's like, I will run no longer. But I like it in the comic. Comic where he sees Steela again, and I'm like, was the Rido just numbing the memories of Steela? Probably. Is that why she hasn't been mentioned?
Probably.
Well, that's great to know. Like, Steela was in a more meaningful way, family, as in family, a source of life.
Yeah.
Meaning.
I love Steela.
So maybe Jin becomes a source of meaning for him again. I mean that, and Luke becomes Anakin's source of meaning at the end too. So
insane to think about.
Yeah, you talk about Draven. Yep. Cassian's got to transcend Luthen for Draven.
I mean, is Draven another Luthen? I mean, I confuse the two a lot for some reason. But anyway.
He does. You know, we win when we slow you down. I love it when
Draven's just a tired dad.
He's taking care of all these kids, man.
He's just like
my children.
I swear.
Your mother will be here soon, everyone. Don't worry.
Your mother will be here soon. Me. Does that mean Senator Mothma's coming home? Just me and Erskine sat there with our coloring books, and it's just pictures of her.
Mothma's mom, Draven's dad, Bale's uncle.
Yes.
Bale is also dad, and Brea's also mom.
That's true. Okay.
Well, clearly.
But
Bale Organa sandwich.
But yeah, let's get to the Senate now. We see, of course, the poor Ghorman senator getting arrested. I hope he's alive.
Dasi Aran is dead.
I love that moment.
He wanted me to address this to his haters. Ghorman will rise again. You can't stop us. Vive la Ghorman. That is his full statement.
Sure.
You do not see him in the background right now.
I love the moment of well, I think I saw this online somewhere. It's like if it's us first, you're next, and right then you see Bale.
No way. So that was the Star Wars Explained post that Raphael Roger Levy, who plays Daciora, posted on his story, and then the final Death Star laser shot thing.
Yeah.
Benjamin Bratt reposting it from Raphael Roger Levy, and I'm like.
But by the way, before we begin, I do want to see though. Let's get a vibe check. Let's do vibe check. How we all feel about Benjamin Bratt now? How we doing? Matthew, I'll talk to you.
I never had a problem.
I have a problem either.
You know,
I'm glad to see.
Well, I was like, again, last time I was thrown out of it. It was like, oh, whatever. And then I looked it up and like, okay, scheduling, whatever. I don't care. It's fine.
You did a great job.
Woke up to the news. This was, I think, one of my last days. I think it was the last day in Japan. Maybe it was either the Monday or the Tuesday. I woke up to this news in Japan, and I was like, and as a huge Jimmy Smits fan, as a huge Bail Organa stan, I was like, I do not like this new man on the scene. But then my friend Nicholas was just like, okay, you've seen this, you know who Benjamin Bratt is, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's freaking great. And he was like, now picture him. I agree. I'm glad it was an actual role, not a cameo. Because if it was a cameo, I'd be like, just cut it. Because I was saying that, I was like, Bail Organa is going to be super important. We have to see him in season 2 of Andor, right? Because there's so many things that he has to be part of, especially with Mon's story. And so just like, that initial skepticism, I feel bad. Benjamin Bratt, you are phenomenal. You and Genevieve have insane levels of chemistry.
Mhm.
And I was like just blown away. Even in that one, like where Tony was just like, I'm gonna hold you, but we're gonna like dip your toes into the water of Benjamin Bratt as Bail Organa. I was like,
Smart.
I really like this. I stopped flailing, and Tony's like, all right, throws me 10 feet in. And I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Oh,
We're good.
Yeah. I mean,
Agreed.
also
I
like
loved
Erskine,
it.
you know, I watched Secret Cargo twice in the last week, right? And just the Erskine voice, I'm glad they changed it. I'm glad they did that. Obviously, of
Carol
course,
is
remembering,
wonderful. I love
he's
him.
great.
yeah,
They're all
having
great.
seen Secret
He's so
Cargo, I mean,
handsome.
yeah, Bale is so important and critical. He's, you know,
Yeah.
he's the one who
He's 1/3
helps
of the
us
original
to,
3 leaders of the rebellion. It's
but
Mon.
critical to
Exactly.
getting Mon out of Coruscant is what I'm getting
Exactly.
at.
And
So,
like, you know, as
yeah.
a Leia Princess of Alderaan stan and as a Mon Bale shipper, I was like, the number one thing that will sell it for me is how he and Genevieve work together.
Yeah.
Because I was like, we might not see Brea, so it's going to be up to him and Genevieve to sell me on this. To make me
Brea at Alliance meetings. This is my
Madison
husband
or
Bale and his wife
Bale,
Mon.
and this is my husband Bale. She's like, these
Sex.
are my 2 husbands. Both of them
Yes.
are Bale. I have a secret cloning facility that Palpatine's not allowed to see. Bail Organa. I've got 2 of them now. They're both hot.
We're past 2
Brea,
hours. We haven't gotten to Mom Mothma
one
yet.
I know. I'm sorry.
Brea,
Just throwing that out there.
Brea Organa won the Star Wars. She is in the middle of a Bail Organa sandwich. She is living her best life.
This is
I'm
Mickey
jealous.
17. We've seen Mickey 17. Is that what's going on here?
Yes. But anyway, we get all the big build up. Obviously, you know, Luthen tells Mon, you know, don't trust Bale's people. They're compromised, which they are. And then he's like, Erskine's been working for me. Mon feels betrayed. I don't blame her, unfortunately. I mean, I know Erskine just did to make her safe, but he took the bullet. He took the bullet. He took the metaphorical bullet from Mon, as we all would.
Oh, I would take an actual bullet for her.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like Erskine. He and I are so similar. But only one of us is able to be like an actual decoy for her.
Exactly.
And he is jealous about that.
He has had his other uses. But then we get to
I thought it was the Ghost Crew that was compromised. I'm sorry. I just thought it was the Ghost Crew that was compromised because I was like, Bale's people. Oh, yes, Bale knows the Ghost Crew. Oh, my God.
This
is Secret Cargo.
Luthen's like, I've seen them get groceries. I know what they do.
I know what they do. One's like, I have to do grocery shopping when I leave. I don't know how to do that. And Erskine's like, I barely know how to do that.
Anyway.
I also don't know how to grocery shop. So
we get the great moment in the Senate when Bale does some really cool legislating, ruling stuff. And then finally, oh my God, the speech. I'll just give my brief thoughts. Brilliant. It will be timeless, and it deals with modern day stuff. I don't care what anyone says online. There's a reason why Mon Mothma uses the word genocide twice, maybe 3 times. I don't remember. I'm sure I'll remember.
Oh, just once.
No, it's twice.
Okay.
What happened yesterday on Ghorman was
and
why don't we, Ash? Why don't you read the speech?
Yeah, read the speech.
Oh, okay. So because I haven't practiced it enough, this is just gonna be unhinged.
Yes.
This is gonna be Mon practicing it on the plaza. Okay,
And I'll have a moment from the Underworld socials to bring up while you're giving it. Go ahead.
Oh God. Fellow senators, friends, colleagues, allies, adversaries, I stand before you this morning with a heavy heart. I've spent my life in this chamber. I came here as a child, and as I look around me now, I realize I have almost no memories that predate my arrival, and few bonds of affection that cleave so tightly. Through these many years, I believe I have served my constituents honorably and upheld our code of conduct. This chamber is a cauldron of opinions, and we've certainly all had our patience and our tempers tested in pursuit of our ideals. Disagree as we might, I am hopeful that those of you who know me will vouch for my credibility in the days to come. I stand this morning with a difficult message. I believe we are in a crisis. The distance between what is said and what is known has become an abyss. Of all the things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, When it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. This chamber's hold on the truth was finally lost on the Ghorman Plaza. What took place yesterday, what happened yesterday on Ghorman, was unprovoked genocide. Yes, genocide. And that truth has been exiled from this chamber. And the monster screaming the loudest, the monster we've helped create, the monster who will come for us all soon enough, is Emperor Palpatine.
I love the final moment. Today, I always love a good Palpatine mention. But again, like I said, I think that this is the moment where, Mon's like, there's no, if we get rid of these governors, maybe we take out Tarkin, maybe we have a better advisor, maybe we reform the Stormtrooper Corps, maybe things will be better. No, this is like, no, this system is rotten to the very core. At the top, the Emperor is no shadow, is no like poor old man being ill-advised. Like, he is the monster that we all know. And
that we created.
As well. And it's like, this is where she takes her stand. She calls it genocide twice. And it's great. What a speech. It's timely and timeless.
And I think it's really important as well that she opens it with how long she has been in the Senate, how much she truly loves and believes in the governing body of this group of worlds, essentially, because I don't want to call it an empire, and it's not a republic anymore. And she's literally saying, like, I've done the best I can, and I hope that my allies will be able to see what I'm doing here and be able to find it in their hearts to believe in what I'm saying, right? And she isn't absolving herself of any wrongdoing here either. She acknowledges her complicity because she's not like the monster that y'all created. She's like the monster that we've helped create. Because while she may have voted against Palpatine, while she may have been part of the delegation of 2000 trying to restore the Republic before it ever crumbled, she failed in that. And that sits with her at her core. And she's known deep in her soul that this rot has been there the entire time. We see her fail time and time again in her fight against Palpatine because she refuses to put truth on the line and literally speak it aloud. And I do also love in the beginning when she's addressing everybody and she's like, senators, friends, colleagues, allies, and adversaries. Because I'm just like, damn, right? Because then she's talking to everybody. Like, everybody in there is technically a senator and a colleague, but not everyone's a friend or an ally. And she needs the people who are against her to also listen. Because there are definitely people in that chamber who do not see her as a colleague, right? The only way that they will view her is as an adversary to them, right? Because they are staunchly pro-Palpatine, and she is the very opposite of that. And I think that it's really important that right before we get this in a weird kind of way, we have the Mask of Fear. Right?
Some good
we see her and Bale pushing forth the Imperial Rebirth Act and working together, getting it passed and still failing. That's where she starts with the Empire. The monster Padme and Jar Jar.
No.
Real.
I know, Red, you're joking. But
it's so... But, like, there's not a word here that is wasted.
Right.
Every single word has its place. Yes, I'm going to carry this around with me. Yes. I have to.
Yeah. I mean, it was so stunning.
It was
Oh, Joel, kind of cut it there. Can we hear you?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, I'll jump in because I definitely want to talk about this. It was really stunning. Oh, you're back. You're back. Okay, go ahead, Joel.
There we go.
You good to go?
Oh no, I'm gonna read some comments.
Oh yeah.
good to go.
Well,
Can you hear me?
get the Red's got a good comment here about
The monster Padme and Jar Jar created.
Well, no, that's not a
Yeah,
good comment. That's a good joke.
Yeah.
That the
Mhm.
credibility, and it is a real question. I mean, that's the thing. That's the complexity with Mon is Joel. I think you mentioned it at the top, right? It's only when she is, it's like she's the only one who can really bring the alliance together as an alliance, right? Yeah, she said that with oh my gosh, my brain is slowing down. I'm getting tired here. The Claudia Gray book, Leia Princess of Alderaan, that one.
Yeah.
Right.
But it takes her connections, her political acumen, her wealth, all these things. It's weird. It takes privilege. And that's the complexity with Mon. It takes privilege. It takes privilege for her to stay and try and use the system as best she can. And it takes privilege for her to actually have a choice. The Ghormans don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking her. I'm just saying it's just
she's from the core worlds.
It's something that those of us, who can afford have an internet, have a job, all that. What are we doing with our privilege? And it's such a fascinating question there. And I have another thought, but Joel, go ahead.
It would be interesting if one day we get like a story from like a very on the ground level of a. I mean, we kind of are with Andor to some extent, but like even another one where like I gotta wonder: are some of these rebels who have been in it for years and obviously they didn't watch Star Wars? Are they kind of resentful of Mon? Because it's like, oh, you now join us? We've been doing this since day one. I mean, that's all kind of like that to some extent. Where it's like, I've been on the literal ground since day one, smoking the fumes. You get to be in your fancy mansion and whatnot. Obviously, but obviously it's more complex than that. But you gotta wonder if like there are people who are like, oh, now you join the rebellion. Meanwhile, my Wookiees have been genocided themselves.
So how does she navigate that?
And
like how does she smooth that over?
I think part of that a little bit, I think the closest we've come to that is in Rebel Rising, when Jyn is watching these Senate broadcasts while she's with Saw, and she's specifically paying attention to Bail and Mon. And while it's not necessarily Mon that has the bulk of her attention, it's Bail. She's like, I think he's one of the few that we might have a chance with having as part of this fight against the Empire, but would he be willing to give up the luxuries of Alderaan to fight with us? And knowing that is how Jyn is thinking at a young age, is this person willing to give up the luxuries of insert core world here? The fact that Mon's whole dress sense changes and it becomes a lot more simplistic. Her hair is easier to maintain. All of these other things really shows like, she's not just in the Senate anymore. And a change with that is up until in release order, Secret Cargo, but now in like timeline order, this episode here, we don't see her wear like a pant or a slack type of outfit. And we see that for the first time here. Whereas in the Clone Wars, in the original trilogy, in the prequels, I don't know how I got those two mixed up. Anyways, I would have realized it eventually. We see Padme wearing that style of outfit frequently when she's on the ground with these people. We see it on Geonosis. We see it when she's pretending to be a pilot at the beginning of episode 2. We see it throughout the Clone Wars when she's working with Satine to work out what's going on Mandalore. And so it very much changes that. Right? Her style and her aesthetic changes as she's like, I'm leaving the Senate and I'm going to fight alongside them. And in the Inferno Squad book, I think it's Christy Golden that wrote it. There's a part where Iden is with the Dreamers and they're like, you could lend us a lot of legitimacy. You can do for us what Leia Organa and Mon Mothma did for the Alliance. Because when they officially sided with the Alliance, that gave them legitimacy. Like, oh, they're not just a scrappy little group of rebels that doesn't know what they're doing and has no power. They have people who have worked within the Empire at the highest levels, able to give them this power that they didn't have before, that they needed to be taken seriously. And that's super important as well. Mon Mothma is a very complex character, and I love her. There's a reason she's my favorite Star Wars character.
And yet at the same time, you know, the first time we see her in Rebels, there's the emergency. Hera says, "Can you help Chopper release the ship?"
And she does.
And she does. No questions. Like, it's of course I'm gonna help out.
She's like, man, I don't know. It's your ship. Sure, your droid's just gonna sit here. I'm doing all the heavy work.
I mean,
and I love that moment with her and Hera on the bridge.
Oh, it's a good moment.
Cockpit where she just comes in.
Mon gives her a coffee.
Gives her a coffee and sits down. Like, here you go. And I love the mutual respect that Hera is someone who gets how important it is. Hera is someone who also, well, no, she grew up with an insurgency, but Hera gets the change that Mon is undergoing and how it is difficult, and respects and gets why she's important to the rebellion, and Mon respects everything Hera's gone through. You know, this whole line of on the run for my life, you know, it's a new experience for me. Hera says, yeah, and instead of being outvoted, you're outgunned. Here's the rebellion. Of course, Cassian had just said, welcome to the rebellion.
To get a little even more real for like half a second, you know, I once heard somebody say something of like, class isn't really what you're born into, it's what you do and how you act. And, you know, even for those of us who do want a classless society and aiming for that, you know, goal isn't to like wipe out all the rich people. It's more like you're just not going to be rich and own the means of production anymore. Like, you can still be alive. You don't have to. We don't, you know, like, it gets messy. I mean, sadly, it gets messy for a bunch of reasons I don't want to get into right now. But like, you know, like, we just don't want you rich. You can still live, you know. And I think in a weird way, you know, Mon is kind of the dream of like, you know, yeah, she's rich and privileged, but what is she doing with said privilege? And then when push comes to shove, you know, at least in the context of just up to the original trilogy, you know, she's like, no, she is gonna slum it with the troops. She's gonna, she goes to Endor, I think. You know, she's on one of the home one, I guess.
She's on home one, and then she, after the battle, joins them on Endor.
You know, she's
to
there.
Get lit with the Ewoks.
I mean, who knows? Speaking getting lit, running into Thane, getting lit.
Fucking real.
I mean, you know,
she's just like, oh no, oh dear.
Speaking funny, Gray.
she understands, but you know, like, I would not imagine if Home One was the worst come to worst. Home One was getting attacked by Imperial stormtroopers. Mom would get a blaster and start blasting along with the rest of them.
At this point,
100%.
You know,
we might see something like that tomorrow night. I wouldn't be surprised.
Give Mon a blaster.
Like the Welcome to the Rebellion, the shock of it.
Right.
That encounter, but then okay, she's got there.
But
I want to come back. So go ahead, Joe.
No, I was gonna say you want to go to the speech.
I want to go back to the speech because I want to bring this up. So Andor, like I mentioned, one of the things, the progression with Andor is moving through our real time, our real history. It starts with the Wannsee Conference. It gets into the French Resistance. It gets into all of these, you know, Iraq and Afghanistan. Here's the moment here, and John, I don't know if you or Ben made this one. I got it from the Underworld socials.
I don't think I did. I probably did.
Yeah, Ben might have made it. Where this is where it comes to our present moment.
Genocide white people.
Well, specifically, yes, genocide of white people. I mean, specifically, the abyss between objective reality and the narrative, and it's just this wild flip. You know, growing up in youth group, and this is also going to be a bit of a theology time. Where are we? Here we go. Doing this right now. I don't know if you've seen this youth group, and there's a lot of narrative around now about how the progressives are denying objective truth, and the rise of secularism is the denial of objective truth, and Christians got to hold firm to objective truth. And now what we've seen, and even now we hear, the last 20 years, hopefully this isn't too much inside baseball, but as my own church has grappled with questions of LGBTQ inclusion, of women's roles, of all these things, it's the accusation, oh, the egalitarian progressives are the ones betraying the truth. And I'm not saying, I think that there's a lot of more in the grand scheme of things, conservative Anglicans aren't all that conservative, to put it that way. But what we're seeing is this wild about face, because there was in the 60s, again, sorry for the inside baseball, but this kind of idea of this is something Sophia and I could get into. It would be great for Sophia and I to get into, but this sort of, let's question our foundations of doctrine, let's question the sources, and that there was something important to that. But there's now this reemergence, this not reemergence, this articulation of it anew from the more progressive egalitarian side of saying this is the truth of what we believe about God and the universe. And it's more complex than objectivity and subjectivity. It's about faith and tradition and experience and all these things. But what we get to say is Bishop Buddy in Washington, in her sermon, she's the one upholding that. This is maybe a parallel here. She's the one upholding objective truth about what Hispanic Americans are about to experience, right?
Mhm.
She's the one holding what immigrants to the United States generally, not just, I mean, there's and Hispanic Americans who've lived in the US for decades, generations. She's the one upholding it, and there's conservative evangelicals and conservative Catholics who've put this guy in office, who, that's the problem, who says we don't know. I mean, that's the thing, Ash. 51st state. We don't know. I mean, he's probably serious, but people think he's not,
Yeah.
And please let me into your country in July. I do want to go. Joel, please welcome me to the United States, to California in July.
I'm trying to bring my Americans here.
Yes, but I would like to go to San Diego Comic-Con.
That is fair. Yeah, I want to go to Star Wars Celebration LA. So, Joel, I know you don't have very much power, but if you just called up the government and asked them to just
hello, government. Yeah, I got 2 Canadians here. They want to go.
So, basically, my point though is just this wild moment that Mon Mothma so perfectly articulates the crisis of truth that we're in. What a phrase, crisis of truth. That is the phrase that more conservative voices use to talk about secular society. Now it's the phrase that, progressives talking about gender dysphoria as a neurological disease for which, I know it's more complicated than this, but neurological disease for which transitioning is the cure. That's one aspect of it, right? Talking about what's the ectopic pregnancies and the risk of childbirth, and that being the reason for more complexity, nuance about laws or not. All these things that we've come into a place where it's Mon Mothma is the one, the Mon Mothmas of the world, Bishop Buddy is the one standing for truth and speaking to a president who doesn't really even have a grasp on what the truth is.
Yeah.
And so, that and the monster that screams the loudest, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we've come to, and I've said that this president is, and I'm using this phrase, and I've said it, here I go, the final solution to postmodernity's truth problem is that we need to find some way to agree. Yes, Gene Roddenberry had a great utopian vision, but it's not going to be just in reason alone,
Mhm.
scientific reason alone. Although that has to be an important part of it. We need to find some way to have a common acceptance of truth again.
Mhm.
And it's going to be one that actually is able to say, not just find your truth, but to say your truth can be part of my truth and my truth can be part of your truth. It needs to
Mhm.
be this
Yeah.
communitarian ethic, and that is such a complex question. But yeah, that's what this
Mhm.
speaks to me is, like I found so I was when I was in Kansas City in February, and this is where I saw this is these progressive Episcopalians who were worried, and this may be where I'm coming from here. And I know I get that neither of you are necessarily coming from, but I think you both understand where I'm coming from. These progressive Episcopalians worried about ICE coming to their churches. These
Mhm.
clergy saying worried about ICE coming to their churches, saying, well, what do we do? How do
Mhm.
we defend ourselves? How do we defend our parishioners?
Yeah.
How do we feel courage and hope and joy at this
Yeah.
time? And so that's where I go for Christians. We have this story of Jesus who
Mhm.
not just questioning, but questioning maybe the historical criticism, but saying, okay, who died and rose again and brings life and hope to all people.
Mhm.
Not everyone has to believe that, but
Mhm.
maybe that's part of it, is recapturing the sources of hope and joy. And so, maybe the new pope will do that a little bit. I don't know
Mhm.
if he's aura farming or not, but I don't know what aura farming means. But with my day job, it is fascinating to see the things he's saying too.
Mhm.
But yeah,
I
so
got a quick
that's my
question.
that's my rant about
Yeah,
this.
and
Yeah.
I
I
think that it's really interesting seeing people from the religious community, as you just mentioned, being worried about protecting their own parish, their flock, essentially,
Yeah.
from ICE, especially when you consider that churches are meant to be havens and
Yeah.
sanctuaries, right?
Churches.
The same with hospitals. And the whole point of a church from the very beginning was to the point of being able to practice your faith.
Yeah.
And with regards to Mon, right?
Yeah.
She's not shown to be like a religious or character that's into the mysticism of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
To her temple is the Senate chamber.
Yeah.
Right? And so her going through this is essentially her having to call out these systems of, like, essentially, being like, hey, this isn't right. Like, this is what we are supposed to be doing. This is our mandate. We are meant to be working for the people, protecting the people, taking care of the people, right? That's how she sees her fellow delegates, not her fellow delegates, Jar Jar. And that is what their job is. But as we get into in the Mask of Fear, there's very different methods for how senators are sent to this chamber. Some are elected, like Mon, like Ludmaroy, like, I think in my mind, the way Daci Orban is. Others are appointed by the monarch of their planet, Bail Organa, Padme Amidala. And
Nepotism.
yeah, Bail Organa slept his way to the top, baby girl, just like Han Solo for real, just like Dylan from the Ghorman front. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those boys are gorgeous. And I think that that's really important because, it is a matter of faith, and having faith, in this case, in an institution that you are part of. It is harder to call out something that you are part of than it is to call out something that you are not part of. For us, we are all, as far as I can see, white people in this little thing. It is harder for us to call out the atrocities that our ancestors have committed. Probably, in the case of all of us. Hi, I have a lot of British heritage. I'm sure you can imagine what my ancestors
Anglican.
have probably done.
The Church of England.
I was raised Anglican, and then my mother converted us to Mormonism. But at the same time, to me, I don't necessarily consider myself of either faith.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complex than that. We're not going to have Ash's
My
theology
point
time right
being-
now.
I'm Irish on my dad's side, so
My point being,
I'm so
successor to the
sorry.
Church of England.
I know you should be.
Yeah, right. And so it's much more difficult for us to call it out, but we need to call it out for that credibility, for the people that we've done, like our ancestors have done wrong to. And Joel, I am on behalf of my English ancestors to your Irish ancestors, I am sorry. I also have Irish ancestors. And I'm a lot more Scottish than I am English. So
Also, I gotta make a shout out here. Red, you've told me you had some grandparents who were maybe fought in the black shirts and other than the mafia, so yeah, hang on.
I mean, call it out, but in a way that leads to concrete action, right?
Exactly.
Otherwise it's just performance. So like Mon leaving the Senate. I've talked about how my church we do our best to tell the story of the residential schools, and but that's the point. There's always work to be done. Right.
Exactly.
We can't pat ourselves on the back.
Exactly. And be like, all right, well, that's it.
Also, another thing I wanted to bring up about the speech. Just the biggest thing that stood out to me was the comparisons to the Zionist, like the complete flipping of reality, the lies. Also, another good one about a Catholic church. All right, fine. We got the mafia in Jersey. Fair enough.
No, Black versus the mafia in Jersey.
Mafia.
Jersey mafia.
I can't believe we're calling someone out. Like we're calling out the
not the Sicilian mafia, the Jersey mafia.
Oh,
They're fine. They're fine. But no, I mean, what a speech, I mean, we've heard about this speech so much. It's so gratifying just to see it. Yeah. And then it's just all action after that. I'm sorry, I want to just talk about this a little bit. I just love seeing Cassian and Mon together and just having like almost an action moment. Oh, by the way, can I just say, I love that even though he got fired and feels bad, Erskine comes into clutch. It's like the senator has no questions. He has no, like he just back on it.
That's great.
He and I are ride or die for her. We literally have matching friendship bracelets. This one says his name on it.
Nice.
He's wearing one that has my name on it.
I believe you. Fun fact about Secret Cargo. While we're talking about moving into Secret Cargo a little bit, it has important moments involving both an ion cannon and a tractor beam.
Hey,
there we go.
Nice.
Yeah, that's true. Erskine. That's the wildest thing with Erskine, right? Like Tony, what are you doing? You're breaking canon. What's going on?
I was scared.
And then,
I was scared.
And then Tony's like, "Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. I got you."
He's still a ride or die for Mother.
And I just love Mothma and Andor just like running together. That's something about just like Mothma's action moment. It's like so for real. It's like, what's going on?
I want an interview with Genevieve where she's just like, I did my own stunts for that. And Diego's like, you were literally just running for 5 seconds. She's like, that counts as a stunt.
Also,
it counts.
I would be remiss to kind of talk about Andor's evolution in this moment because someone brought it up. Really great moment. There's a great parallel when Andor is driving Mon in the car between Marva taking Andor off the planet, where it's like it's very similar. Where it's like the two of them are kind of heading out, and even like Lucid and Andor in the first. At the end of the arc 3, there's lots of interesting parallels there, and I found those really great.
Yeah.
Also, Wilmond's okay, guys. Wilmond is okay, and his girlfriend.
I want to know how his leg got damaged. It was probably in that escape because we also know that Sam went back to headquarters. Where is he? Although I'm pretty sure he would not want to go to Yavin. He is scared of Belsartha.
I'm sure.
This speech was literally my most anticipated moment across both seasons. And I was scared it was going to disappoint me. It did not.
Good.
It did not.
That's so good.
10 out of 10. No notes.
Oh, yeah.
Genevieve, cooked. Dan Gilroy, cooked.
Yeah.
I love the little moment where Erskine like almost gives like a little mini hug to Mon in the apartment, and then there's like they just have a little talk. And Clea, even Mon's like checking in.
Like,
What did
hey,
Rogue One
how's
Kathy say?
Lucen?
Welcome. I think it was they were talking to Jin. I think I
It
don't
was
remember.
kind of on.
Oh,
like,
he
on
says
Edu.
welcome home to Jin.
But he says welcome to the rebellion on Edu. I think it's I've been in this fight.
I've been in this fight since
No,
I was
maybe
6
not.
years old.
I don't
That's a
know.
good question. I don't remember.
I don't remember.
We're gonna watch Rogue One soon enough. So
We're gonna watch Rogue One tomorrow
know.
night. In
Yeah.
about 24 hours, we'll be rewatching Rogue One.
wow.
9. Also, I also just found it. This is another Lucen thing. I just wanted to bring this up. Oh yeah, and also I think Matthew, you're right.
Yeah.
But this was interesting
First
where
time for everything.
we're kind of talking about the politics of like how are we gonna get the
Mhm.
speech and all that, and then Cassian's like, what does Lucen want? And then Claire just says Lucen just wants Will to see a doctor. And to me, I mean, I took that. I think he's telling the truth. I think that is kind of.
Yeah.
I think Lucen is also part of Lucen's final moments where he's just like, just want to do one good thing for this kid. Just get him a doctor. Like I don't want to deal with
He
the
deserves it.
like I think Lucen's like, I don't need the politics. I don't need the credit.
Yeah.
Like, just get this kid a doctor.
Just get this kid to Yavin, to a
Let-
proper doctor who's probably gonna have to amputate. And Mon's gonna smack him on his fake leg and be like, hey, guess what I have? Fake stomach. And Wilmon's gonna be like, that's not helpful. That's not helpful.
Yeah.
We should have got the Melshi and Keith Gergo reunion.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I mean, I agree.
We will. We'll get Melchi.
Melchi. But speaking of Bix, I do agree with Red. I think Lucen was concerned about Bix. I've always believed that, like, as much as Lucen would love to like destroy any sense of like humanity in him, it's like he can't. Like he would love to be ruthless, but I think he's a softie deep down.
He killed my father.
That's true. Well, I don't think he enjoyed killing your. Well, I think
he did. I think he did enjoy killing my father.
We're talking about Tay Kolma.
We're talking about Tay Kolma.
I know.
Hi.
But let's move to Bix near the end because I do think we want to wrap up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I agree with what Matthew's going to say, where it's like I would have liked to have seen her go on missions and whatnot, and maybe do some more rebel stuff. I'm glad she's not dead. I'll say that. We talked about.
I'd rather never see her again than have to frickin' watch her die. As I feel the same way about B2.
I know, and I know we talked about Vel. I'm like, they have to kill Vel. I didn't like that, but
they're probably gonna have to kill Vel. Yeah.
Emotional terrorism.
Not Vel. I mean, Cinta. Like.
Yeah.
So they're gonna.
I'm glad you brought up Cinta because my criticism with Bix's story is kind of the hair in the bun with the rolling pin in the oven in the kitchen. A little bit. She should have gone to Ghorman too. That would have been like
had like a heart attack.
No, or something. Like I wanted her to be far more important to the story, and she just wasn't. I do love that she's the way into talking about the Force, but that conversation with Vel was kind of weird. Like in terms of a Bechdel test failure, is kind of what I'm getting. Which whether or not I have the right to talk about Bechdel test, but.
We love the
I mean, I do appreciate that she has to leave in order for Cass to really commit to the Rebel Alliance because she was going to go. She was going to go. I want to see a story now of her exploring her Force sensitivity. Of her being.
Does she have Force sensitivity, or she's just
maybe
or something? This side. She's more at this point in time. She's clearly more interested and curious about the mystical aspect of it. That this show is only nodded towards once in this episode.
Do you know where people go when they wanna learn about the Force?
The Jedi Temple.
Sure.
Jeddah.
Jeddah. Yeah. So maybe.
Tony, I swear to God.
Oh God. Oh yes.
So
I'm the only one who also felt like. Are we gonna find out Bix is pregnant? Is there like a little Andor or Bix Jr. and he's gonna go to Luke's temple? Oh wait, we don't want that.
I thought that Enza was gonna be pregnant, and again, I'm not gonna get into it. But also, speaking along the lines of the idea of Bix not having the agency, I think it showed a lot of bravery and agency to know when it was time to
Yeah.
leave, because it doesn't mean that she's no longer doing things for the rebellion.
Mhm.
Oh,
She's
no.
just leaving Cassian, right? I think that she's maintaining contact with people like Vel, probably Draven. I want to see her interact with Mon at some point. So she's still able to do things for the rebellion,
Sure.
but it cannot be connected to Cassian because he needs to be on that beach in Scarif.
Yes.
He needs
That
to
just
get
makes
to
it
that
sad.
point.
That just makes it more
And it
sad
just-
for her.
It hurts. I'd love to be like, she has decided to check out. She is in the cutest little bikini, sipping a fruity little cocktail on some beach that is not Scarif, and she is having the time of her life. And B2 is sat next to her in his little charger dog bed. But
I'll
even
take that
like
headcanon.
in my Fix It AU, where Enza and Dylan survive and they go to Yavin, she ends up essentially as a seamstress for the rebellion. She's just like, bring me your uniform stuff that you get all messed up on missions, and I will fix it for you. She
Someone's
spends a
gotta
lot
do
of
that.
time in logistics, and she's like, this is what I'm happy doing. I no longer have my Gorlectopods or my beautiful showroom or my father. My boyfriend is using a gun now, and that's scary. But he's not going to go to Scarif because he is babysitting our weird son who stares at jungle spiders.
Fair enough. But no, I hope so. I want to know that Bix. I'm sure. I hope. I kind of have to headcanon that Bix is doing more and not just like, well, I'm out. You're good luck.
I just
Cassie.
wanted her to have more to do in the story itself.
That's fair. We might get her back.
You might.
It just
I
might
hope so.
not be with Cassian.
Oh yeah,
We
sure.
still have tomorrow.
We do
We'll
have
always have tomorrow.
Now
That's
it
the
just
wrong
makes me-
musical, Ash. Wrong
Now it
musical.
just makes me sad that when like, is he thinking of Bix when Cassian looks out on the horizon and goes, "I'm sure somebody's listening out there." Rogue One's gonna be just sad.
Joel, you broke Ash.
I know.
Someone's listening. And it's Wilmon and Drina.
Oh, I'll
I
take
mean-
care of this. And she's the Black Scout Trooper. I'm not Jenica for. I'll do that.
Saw found her while she was just trying to do a little force pilgrimage after she met Bazin Charut.
Yeah.
Hashtag team up.
That'd be cool. Like, I'll be there for that if she's on Jeddah. I mean,
that
we gotta.
means
As
see-
long as she
Jessica's-
escapes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She can
I
start
actually
the
thought for some reason I did a bit of a double take in episode. It was in episode 8 with like Ghorman, the city. I thought that was Jeddah for a second because it's kind of laid out.
It's
that
a
way.
mirror. It's a
Yeah,
mirror.
it's laid out that way with the
Mhm.
city and then the tower.
Mhm.
The armory
Yeah.
looks like the temple. And
Yeah.
and it's funny.
The
temple also-
armory is the Empire compensating for something.
Well, sure.
So it gets a little weird because the temple also looks like the armory, and Vader's castle all looks like the
Yeah.
temple from Jeddah.
Yeah.
and
so
they're
it's like,
also strip mining Jeddah of kyber crystals.
Yeah.
what are the Jedi compensating for their big temple? Whenever...
They're selling it.
Nothing.
So lots.
I mean,
And-
Obi-Wan's not compensating for anything.
That's true.
It's Yoda. It's Yoda's fault.
Before we
agree.
wrap up, I do want to
Yeah,
speculate. Wow, we've gone long. I do want to just speculate a little bit. I have this a bit of a theory about the timeline for this 4th arc because Gilroy said this is going to bring us right up to Rogue One.
Yeah, he's
Right.
getting on the ship to go to Caffrine. The
Except
ring of
that
Caffrine.
that's not one BBY.
It is
That's-
one BBY.
Isn't that's 0 BBY?
It's not. Because technically 0 BBY is during the Battle of Yavin. So
yeah,
everything
but this
before
is
that
so
technically
sorry, not one
one.
BBY, but like
Where's my
a few
timelines book?
weeks
my-
before the Battle of Yavin, not a year before the Battle of Yavin. So
Mere days.
days. So I'm wondering if if we're gonna actually have, I don't know, maybe something like an epilogue with time jumps within it, right? Because again, I think this is gonna really show the Death Star coming together, and we everything.
Mhm.
The reason we're gonna probably see Ghorman get exploded or something terrible,
Oh.
and with the whole and we're gonna actually probably see the actual process. We've seen this weird munitions technology in this season and in season 1, just different.
Yeah.
I mean, and even we saw Cassian on the prison building, that connecting joint for the Death
Narkina
Star.
5.
Yeah, Narkina 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're gonna see why that mineral is important for Kyber. We're gonna see that
calcite?
connection. We're gonna see calcite, and we're gonna see probably I mean Krennic come into his own. I mean that's another funny thing about this is that in Rogue One he's kind of this bumbling fool. In this show he's taking charge, right? A little more, and so we're gonna hopefully probably see more of that. But again, I think almost kind of like Rebels finale epilogue, but maybe more extended, probably less of a shock. I think it's gonna like they might actually say, okay, 9 months before, 6 months before, 3 months before Ring of Kafrene.
That's interesting.
Interesting.
I'm never quite sure if we're gonna have an epilogue or not because I don't know
No, that's an epilogue, or maybe episode 12 is that.
No, I mean, if not the whole episode 12, at least maybe I don't know, a few minutes. I mean, it's curious. I don't know. I don't know if the show wants just to go straight into Rogue One. Okay, now go watch Rogue One, right? Or not.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
I mean, I'm doing that. I can't wait. Why's the calcite get used for powering the Death Star tractor beam or something not super important? That'd be awesome. That'd be horrible.
I think Krennic said something about the Kyber, right?
Yeah.
For the Kyber.
But no, I do think we'll see the Death Star. Because I do think that actually there's a moment in the trailer where I think it's Clea who says they're building something. We know Wilmond has connections to Saw. Ghorman was about the Death Star. Saw's biggest thing is obviously he kind of finds out about the Death Star through both Galen and his own paranoia.
Guys, this shit is real.
I know, and this is what Cassian is looking for. That's why he wants Saw's contacts. A planet killer. It's all coming apart. You're all gonna die.
Yeah.
That Pablo Hidalgo looking guy that Cassian has to shoot. So I do agree. I think again, the Death Star is a big part, and I do think wrapping up Lucen, Clea, and Dedra, with probably only Clea coming out of it alive. I hope.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I love Clea. If I had to pick one of those three to survive, it would be Clea.
Makes sense.
She is up until I got my Gores. Clea was my favorite original Andor character. Because I love her.
I do too. She's great. I think maybe we'll find out a little bit of Lucen's final backstory, like why he's even doing this, even just a little bit. I still like my he's from Naboo theory.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that theory.
Naboo, the planet that gave us Palpatine.
And Padme.
What wrong has Ghorman ever done? Nothing.
Exactly. But no, I agree. I think Death Star and Lucen's final goodbye, are probably the two. I mean, actually, I'm sorry. I have and Jar Jar. Yes, Red, we need Jar Jar.
And Jar Jar. Okay.
Hey, I'll take that.
But
I'll take it.
I don't want to turn this too long, Ash. I'll just maybe kind of give us quick, both as a speculation and for the episode. Are you surprised that we didn't find out what happened to Lita and Perrin? They kind of just boot out. I kind of want to know. Maybe we'll see next arc.
Rapid fire. Essentially, there was something that they wanted to do after Mon leaves Coruscant before going to the Ghost, and this fits with Secret Cargo, and it is an Andor scene that they wrote, so I'm considering it canon, like the deleted scenes in Revenge of the Sith, because the Mask of Fear and the Revenge of the Sith. So essentially, she was supposed to go back to Chandrilla to see Perrin and Lita. I don't know what happens there, but it's also referenced in Secret Cargo when Erskine's like, let's get you back to Chandrilla to a proper hiding place. Anyways, I've seen Secret Cargo probably more times than most people. Every time I'm like, I want to watch a Star Wars and I have 23 minutes. I'm like, Secret Cargo time. But I haven't been able to handle that fun and whimsy in the last week because I'm depressed because of this arc.
Sure.
Dang it. That's a little disappointing. It's like we spend so much time with Perrin at least. Like, what happened to that guy? What happened to Lita?
He's gambling. He's on Canto Bight, right? He's in Canto Bight right now, gambling.
She's stuck.
He doesn't realize that there's no money left
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Because Draven was like, transfer it all to me, and she's like, this will be suspicious, but here you go. And he's like, cool, I have taken all of the money out of Senator Mothma's accounts. This is a lot of money.
Okay.
We can buy new ships.
Oh, yay. Okay, that was the only thing I wanted to do, and
Yeah.
now I do think we should start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to be a long episode. I apologize, Matthew.
No, it was good. No, it was good.
all good.
Here for it. 3 hours. Why not? I mean, we kind of knew it was going to happen.
I'm a problem. You guys are going to regret having me around.
Never.
No, I
Matthew's
love it.
going to
It's
regret our
great.
friendship.
Never.
I love it.
Never.
It's great.
Never.
I am, just wow. Probably some great Star Wars, great TV.
Mhm.
I am. It actually makes me excited for the rest of the Reign of the Empire because I feel like that's going to
Yeah.
fill in some gaps. And I love it. It hurts, but I love it. It's a good kind of hurt.
Yeah, you kind of hurt. Yeah. There you go. All right, I think that's a good place to wrap things up. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining the comments. You're also great questions. Let us know what you thought of this episode, of this arc, this pinnacle of Star Wars on-screen storytelling.
Okay.
What you thought of Ash's adventures in Japan. Why not? Let us know. Only good vibes only, though. Good vibes only.
Good vibes only. Don't
Ash,
be jealous about
yeah.
what happened for me.
No,
I
live
deserve it.
vicariously. Live vicariously, Ash. Speaking of which, Ash, how can they live? First of all, thank you for coming on, for giving us 3 hours.
It's always a pleasure. It's been an honor.
Yes, I look forward to meeting again in person as well as online. Plug your stuff. Where can they find you on the internet? Where can they live vicariously through you in your Japan experiences?
And see my god-awful weird memes. A personal account, Bejeweled Mothma, most platforms. I was able to get back into my Twitter account, so now I'm shitposting there too. Mothma updates for all things Mon Mothma. I am behind, but there's going to be a massive thread that I'm preparing. And also YouTube, the Mon Mothma Project. I talk a lot about Mon Mothma. This summer, I will be doing a deep dive into Ghorman and everything about Ghorman. Also check out my little Ghorman friendship bracelet. It's little French flags.
Nice.
That I made last night. Anyways, yeah, that's it. That's me. Hi.
Mothma Project. What's on Blue Sky? Mothma Project.
Well, Mothma updates and Bejeweled Mothma are my
Yes.
handles across the board. And then the Mon Mothma Project on YouTube. Yeah.
Definitely check that out, especially the Death Star episode.
Especially, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You can also find my panel there.
Yes, more importantly.
Sorry.
Yes, more importantly, the panel. Joel, thanks again as always. Where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at JID20234 on Blue Sky, JID20234 on Blue Sky, and of course, the Star Wars Underworld podcast Discord, where we do all sorts of fun things from game nights, movie nights, and all that good stuff. So yeah, I think we're doing game night next week, but unless the Andor series blows me again, I might call audible, but we will see.
I mean, all likelihood it's going to blow your mind. Ash definitely has Mon Mothma as the image there. That's great. Yeah, you can find my personals, MNUG1138. My that's on Instagram and Blue Sky and Threads. You can find my Twitter, Stolen Bird app at NUG485. Also beaches.foodie on Instagram. Check that as well. Yeah, Iron Cannon Pod. Iron Cannon, Blue Sky, Iron Cannon Pod, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Yeah, and then Tractor Beam. Oh yeah, I should get that. It's late, guys. Tractor Beam coming up this Wednesday. Young Jedi Adventures FCBD. Jedi It's number 3. Ghost Agents number 3. We're catching up. We'll get there. We'll get caught up very, very soon. Yeah, next week. What are we talking about, Joel, next week?
We're talking about the finale to Andor.
Yep, that's
and
what we're talking
we're
about next week.
hopefully going to have some guests.
There we go. Hopefully guests. Yes, we'll try to figure that out. So yeah, please do join us again. Also, of course, the comments down below, and follow us on socials, and of course the flagship as well. This has been fun. I'm glad we're doing this show, giving it some love. It's giving us lots to talk about. So
the monosynth will continue.
The monosynth continues, but until then, let's blow this thing and head home.